Hola, hola, my name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. We are a Spanish speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your lucha libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Nos vemos por ahí.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
TNA is the best wrestling in the whole world.
You've never seen anything like this on Spike TV.
The quantity of speech is not always indicative of the quality of thought.
I'm Captain Charisma, you silly bastard!
You've been painting in an unventilated room. Maybe you need to go back to rehab.
Oh, come on.
Now, that wasn't necessary.
This is BS. This sucks. I've lost my objectivity, and I don't give a damn. Elvis has just left the building.
Welcome everybody to You've Got to Be Kidding Me, episode number 43. We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. On this episode, we are talking about the month that is December 2005, leading up to Turning Point 2005. I'm Garrett Kidney, and I am joined by Liam Jones.
The one and only.
I think there's a lot of Liam Jones.
No, I'm the only one. There's an AFL player who is one.
You literally just undercut your I'm the only one instantly.
That's the only other one I've ever heard of.
There's probably not a lot of Garrett Kidneys. I know there are others, because I've sought them out on Twitter, and then followed them, and then he followed me back for a while, and then he unfollowed me. So it's like, fuck you, other Garrett Kidney.
Well, he was like, what the fuck is this shit he's talking about?
Yeah, God, this guy shares my name? Fuck.
He's actually just a really big WWE stan. That's where it came from.
Don't you say mean things about Seth Rollins!
Yeah, Seth Rollins, eh?
Seth Rollins, because he's on Raw.
Can't wait for CM Punk to beat him.
Does he do Monday Night Rollins bits? He should if he doesn't.
He used to.
Okay. That means he's a hack.
He gave up on it.
Hmm.
Because now he's a very serious world champion.
Well, serious. Not really, but I guess he is world champion, even though it's a fake belt they made for him because Roman has to hold that belt for 14 years.
To be fair, they're all fake belts made for people.
That's true, but this one especially so.
I don't mind it. I like a world champ on both brands.
Yeah, but every time people book themselves into that corner, because everyone's like, unification match is a great idea, it's a big hook for this event. And then they do it and they're like, fuck, that's a terrible idea for everything after this event.
Unless you're like, not gonna do brand splits anymore. Then it's fine.
Even then, it's like, you still need people to fill these shows. And when you have someone monopolizing the world title for as long as Reigns has, you create bottlenecks where there's guys who should win that belt who can't because Reigns, for some reason, needs to hold it forever. And then you get instances like Cody and Sammy and even Uso, where it's like, they probably should have won, but this guy still needs to be champ for some reason.
I would say they could win the Intercontinental title, but
They also have a bottleneck there, yes!
And so they have one mid-card belt that can be moved around.
Yeah, and it's currently on Rey Mysterio.
It makes sense. Well, I guess like a lot of the guys that like we say that about are all on Raw, so... And that's the SmackDown belt. But it'll be a little much if SmackDown had Walter and Reigns both as like dominant champions that can't lose.
Yeah, which it did for a while.
Yeah. Oh, because at that point, Raw needed a singles title. So, US title.
And that was in the early stages of Walter's reign, to be fair, but now we are firmly in the, you have known to beat him.
Do you think that's the plan?
That Walter beats Reigns?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
They like, or at least to do a match against the two with like the big unbeaten streaks going against each other.
Well, then Walter should definitely win.
Big SummerSlam match.
It is the problem with long reigns. When it becomes the point that they're clearly still champion because you now just have no one there to beat them. Which is kind of the case with Walter.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I think it's easy to build someone up. You just gotta do it and commit to it.
Yeah, Big Dom Mysterio, it's his time!
He's the North American champion, thank you. Well, that's how they did it. They filled the void with all the NXT belts.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because like people gave AEW a lot of shit for the ROH stuff. They're all just ignoring the NXT belts being on every like major show now, too.
Hey, those belts are very prestigious.
Okay.
They are mostly held by main roster people now, but still. Not mostly, 2 of them are. But
let's talk about how Ilya is the weirdest NXT guy to ever exist.
He does feel like a guy who should just not... Like, even if he went to WWE, he should feel like a guy who should not succeed there based on everything they like.
I assume you do too, but like, I love Ilya. And I have not watched a single match since the like Walter NXT match. And I'm very curious to see what he's like.
Because, like, every time you look at Cage Match, you see whatever Ilya's match has had, he's, like, 4.5 stars.
Yeah, because he's a very good pro wrestler. I've been wondering if, like... Because you know how there's, like, all the scuttlebutt about the NXT Europe relaunch and it being a bigger deal? Like...
Not real.
I mean, probably, but I'm just speaking in, like, theoretical senses here. Because, like, there was the thing where it was, like, they might try and sign Ospreay for that brand. Just with the selling point of, you can live in the UK still. But like I was wondering if like that is a serious sort of like discussion point that they want to do, and maybe like this is a way of building Ilya's cachet up for when they give it a shot.
I think they do just realize how good Ilya is, which is
the idea of like Shawn Michaels being like a big Ilya fan is so weird.
Yeah, he's strapped up Ilya.
What is his shtick? Is he like Russian still?
That requires me to watch NXT, which we will be doing next week.
I was gonna transition it to that later, but yeah, sure, go ahead now.
This is the reason we've done 5 minutes on WWE to open the show, because we will be doing a little Tuesday War Games, not Wednesday War Games.
One night only, Tuesday War Games.
We will be reviving the Wednesday War Games format for WWE's NXT and AEW's AEW Dynamite, going head to head next Tuesday with 2 very stacked cards, one more stacked than the other, frankly, going to war.
One has bigger stars on it, and the other one has good matches.
Yeah, TK's got to break out Goldberg.
He might. Well, like, I mean, like, I don't know, like, if there is a debut, it's probably like Monet, right? Like, she comes out, walks out, doesn't do anything physical.
Bum, 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 money.
Money.
Yes, that'll be in your Patreon feed next week. We'll bring that back for 1 week only, because it's a proper war. I like that it's a proper war. Day. That they're like properly going head to head. NXT pettily throwing literally fucking everything they can at trying to pop that rating. That's great. Do more of that shit.
John Cena.
The Undertaker.
It's wild. Who are the spooky characters on NXT now? Who's the Undertaker gonna joke around with? Joe Gacy still there? Does he do things?
Does The Rock's daughter still do the spooks?
I think they broke up Schism.
Oh, at the wrong time.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's just gonna go face to face with Ilya.
That'd be sick. Ilya should take him out.
Set up an Undertaker-Ilya match.
Isn't like nothing announced for Ilya on that show, which feels weird?
Because they're bringing back 700 old people.
But because the main event, give me a second, is Carmelo Hayes and Bron Breakker.
Again.
But those are like the last 2 champions. Why don't you have the current one involved in something?
Okay, so if Cena's in the corner of Carmelo and Heyman is in the corner of Braun,
yeah,
who's going to be in the corner of Ilya when he walks out?
Seth Rollins. Have you seen Ilya's new coat?
No.
Oh, let me find a picture of Ilya's coat. It's very freaking.
No, that means I have to hate Ilya Dragunov now.
Do you think if I search coat, it'll come up?
Ilya Dragunov coat?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sure, that's the best I got. I have sent it to you on X.
That's a great photo of the coat. I can really tell what the coat looks like here.
But you can tell the essence of it.
It is very floofy.
Yeah. I should have done a three-way with them. Three-way dance.
But yes, that new Tuesday War Games will be in your Patreon feed next week. Enough on WWE. Anything else going on with you?
I watched The Creator.
I'll be seeing that tonight.
I'm surprised that it only has like a 3.4 on Letterboxd. I think it's better than that.
People are wrong.
If I was allowed to be granular, I'd say it's a 4.25.
Ooh.
But it's just good old sci-fi. I wonder if people hate it because the Americans are the bad guy. And the Americans are like, no, it can't be us.
We would never abuse AI for our own purposes and then destroy the world.
It's also super, like, real-life American atrocities coded. It's like, hey, look at this. It's a lot like 9/11. Hey, look at this. It's a lot like how they bomb Middle Eastern countries all the time. So, like, there's a lot of that going on.
And Americans recoil at seeing the reflection of themselves back to them.
I mean, I'm guessing. But, you know, it's good. There's some iffy acting in there, but I can forgive it because I liked the world so much. And the story's just some simple bullshit sci-fi, you know?
And, like, wild sci-fi, a little bit of iffy acting almost adds to it in a way.
Yeah, there's definitely an atmosphere to it. And it's really funny that, like, it does feel like it's biting off, like, a bunch of different stuff from different sci-fi properties, but I don't think it's done in a bad way. I just think it's like, oh, that's kind of similar to this. This is kind of similar to that.
I did watch the Wheel of Time finale yesterday, which ended with a scene where someone blew a horn and brought back hordes of the dead to win a fight. And it's like, that's just fucking Lord of the Rings. That's just Lord of the Rings. You can't just do that. I know everything is sitting in the shadow of Tolkien when it comes to fantasy for the most part, but you can't just do like the same plot beat from Lord of the Rings. Fuck off.
I wouldn't know. I've never seen Lord of the Rings.
Monster. So yeah, I'm excited to see The Creator. Like, I saw the trailer. It's like, that seems cool.
I went in there without seeing the trailers, so I knew nothing. I actually kind of thought it was animated.
It's like, whoa, this is really realistic.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this CG's crazy.
They just really overworked these animators.
Yeah. I really marveled them.
But thankfully all of them are unionizing, so fair play to them.
There's so many different companies they use. They must have been hell to organize.
Because they're outsourcing every single ounce that they can to every company that they can, and then treating them all very badly. And then those companies either burn out or literally go bust, and then they have to go around to somebody else.
Is true.
I'm getting super into Survivor again.
The only Survivor I've ever watched was the Dropout version.
And Johnny Fairplay.
Well, I've never seen him play Survivor.
But he has survived in TNA longer than he probably should have, am I right?
Sure.
Got him.
If you really want to force a joke, sure.
No need to call me out. Very rude. As Survivor, it's like, I go through, like, runs of not watching Survivor, because, like any show, you can't watch it all the time. So it's been, like, 4 or 5 years, I think, since I've watched the season, and I was like, I'm going to watch this season of Survivor. And it's still the fucking best reality show. It's so good. You get so many people now who are, like, Survivor super fans, who are like, I know every aspect of Survivor, except they're non-social freaks.
Oh, they're like wrestling fans.
Yeah, so they're like, this is my dream, but also I am in no way equipped for it, because it is a very physical and it is a very social reality game. So they go out there, it's like, nope.
I'm seeing some parallels here.
I cannot survive whatsoever trying to do this. And then they collapse and fall apart. And
has there ever been a Survivor superfan that's won Survivor?
Yeah, there was a couple. Was it John Cochran a while back, who was like a very like analytical guy, and I think he won. But a lot of the time they do come out there and they are like, well, this requires you to be either smart, social, or, as I said, very athletic.
If you had to pick like one of the three to really excel at in Survivor, what do you think the most important is?
Oh, social. Like, if you're social,
charisma.
You can go all the way. Because if you're smart, you are seen as a threat because you're smart. If you're like a challenge beast, people will take you only so far because you're useful to them until the merge, and then it gets very individualistic, so they want to boot out anybody who can get immunity. So if you're really good physically, you go out probably about halfway through. Whereas if you're social, you can play the long game and you win.
Wasn't there a wrestler who was on it?
Johnny Impact.
I thought there was someone before him, but yes, he was on it. Johnny Survivor.
Johnny Survivor, indeed. I think Ashley Massaro was on it for a year as well.
That's fun.
I think. I want to say. She was on one reality show. I'm pretty sure it was Survivor. I didn't watch Johnny Impact season.
Maybe that could be our next Patreon series.
He went far enough as well, I think. I think he got past the merge, so he would be there for a while.
All right, we'll consider it.
When we get to 2018 TNA, we'll add it in real time.
There we go.
Because he does disappear off TNA TV for the 4 months he's on Survivor, so...
That's fun. Yeah, that was a good run, that 2018 run.
Yeah.
I know it's very easy to roll your eyes at Johnny TV.
I've always been pretty pro Johnny. Like, he has his lane, and if he stays in that lane, he's pretty good.
He's been good on Lucha Underground that we've seen so far. He's good in Impact. Maybe he's just built for the mid-level company.
And even in AEW, he's just on Rampage.
Actually, he's doing Dynamite Dark matches against Brandon Cutler and Colt Cabana.
Why? If anything, that is almost a little underusing Johnny TV.
He's doing the BTE matches.
But yeah, Survivor, it's such a good show because it works every time, because it's just a bunch of people trying to pettily outplay each other and usually stabbing themselves in the back instead of stabbing somebody else, and it is tremendous.
You know what my favorite reality TV show is?
What?
Total Forgiveness.
What is this?
It's one of the most insane premises for a show I've ever seen. Basically, they get two people who are like friends who are like crippling in student debt. And every week they give each other a challenge, and if they complete it, they get like $500, then $1,000, then $2,000, and it keeps going up and up and up and up. But as it goes up, obviously, and like, because if the person fails or doesn't complete it, the other person gets their share.
Feels like a Mr. Beast show.
It is insane because you get to watch these people break each other and their friendship torn asunder as they start picking challenges that are A, socially crippling, or B, just impossible. Like, they're just not, like, able to be completed. They're just, like, there's... I won't spoil any of it because I do recommend you go watch it. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life. But there is one part where it's like, the guy does the thing, and then they go up to like, be like, haha, cool, you did the embarrassing thing. And he just sort of goes, don't talk to me. Are we done with the shoot? I'm leaving.
Nice.
Like, it gets to that level. It gets to the point where they stop liking each other. Some of like the earlier ones, because I don't want to spoil the big ender ones, but some of the earlier ones are like, he has to go up and do stand-up comedy, but all of his jokes are written to bomb, and he has to play it off like it's all fine.
See, I'd probably have fun with that one.
And he's the headliner of the event, and no one else is in on it but him.
Because, like, I know if I did do stand-up, that's exactly how it would go. So I would probably have some fun trying to bomb as hard as I possibly could.
The other one was they had to read their shoot childhood diary at a book reading to the public. What other one?
This is why I'm happy I never wrote a diary.
There was one where they had to come to work drunk every day for a week.
Then you could just get fun. That's like...
No, it's not fun. It is not fun.
That could because like if the whole point is that you're getting money to pay down your student debt, if you're fired from your job, that does defeat the purpose somewhat.
Well, the job is the people that are doing the show. So, but it's very funny to go like every one of their workmates being like, "This is a punishment for us. Why don't we get paid for this?" A, they're completely incapable of doing their job for the week. And we have to deal with this person who had to drink a bottle of champagne before every single workday.
Down it.
And then, yeah, the last couple are real crazy. And I will leave it there because people need to go watch it to see it.
There's reality TV for you.
Yes, sir.
But if you'd like to support our reality, you can head to patreon.com/kiddingme or tnachat.com and subscribe, where you can get show notes, extra shows, watch-alongs. You can get spreadsheets with star ratings that we fill out after every show we watch. And then all the other shows that we mentioned, like Rain Takers, where we cover 2013 New Japan, or Lucha Underground, where we're talking about Lucha Underground. Shocker. Where it also shows...
No, it's Gift of the Pods.
It does have a name. These shows do have names. And we also talk about GFW, we talk about Ring Kai King, we talk about the 2010 Monday Night Wars. As we said, next week we will have a special edition of Tuesday War Games covering the AEW and NXT War Revival.
Which I definitely remember the structure of that show.
Just play the Arthur song and everything's fine.
Cool. I think we do like a match of the week thing.
And then whoever won, yeah.
And then, like, and we also do, like, but who was, like, the best out of both shows? Who had the best performance?
I don't think we did, but we can if you want.
Yeah, I want to do that. That sounds fun.
See, we're innovating on our formats, unlike these people who are trying to play the hits from 2019.
When was the last time you watched an NXT show?
I think the last time I watched NXT was the last time I had to watch NXT for... No, I watched some of the 2.0 stuff at the very start. I watched the first couple of weeks to 2.0 and was like, this is funny and bad, but will increasingly just be bad after a few weeks, and that was the case.
I watched last week's.
So I haven't watched NXT in probably 2 years.
And it was some of the most dreadful bullshit I have ever witnessed in my life. That being said, I will go into this episode with a clear mind and a clear conscience. Not a single ounce of bias will be there. I will give it the benefit of the doubt.
You are approaching NXT with good faith.
Yes, we always said that the War Games podcast was a good faith podcast.
It's my big thing when always covering wrestling. That, like, you do see a lot of people approach everything with bad faith, or approach the things they don't like with bad faith, and I do try to approach everything with good faith, even if I'm grumpy sometimes.
Sometimes it's hard.
People are just doing things you hate. Sometimes that is simply the case.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to give people you hate a chance to surprise you.
They should have put the pay-per-view on the same day as Collision, and we would have been forced to do 2.
But yes, that'll be next week. And all of that available at patreon.com, tnachat.com. You can support the show, support us, and all of the people who do go there and support us, which is a pretty substantial number, all things considered. In the realms of wrestling Patreons, we are, I think, in the top 25% whenever Brandon posts that graphic.
Wait, are we listed in that?
But no, you know, he posts like a pie chart that has like this percentage has 5 to 10, this percentage has 20 to 50, and we are usually in like the top 20-25% of wrestling patrons, which is crazy to think about.
If we get listed in like the actual name, that's when we'll retire.
Yeah.
If we're like listed by name, we're done.
So for you to make that happen for Liam, to make him a successful podcaster on Brandon Thurston's
we'll keep
radar,
the Patreon up though.
You can head to tnachat.com, patreon.com/and support the show.
Also, there's new features on Patreon. Go look.
I don't think we've actually used any of them, but
yeah, we can make the collections,
which we probably should for our individual.
It'd be very
shows.
easy for us because like our things are like 10 episodes each normally. I want to say though, one thing, Raintakers is killing it on the Patreon. Raintakers is like, I think that's like one of our best runs that we've been hitting. Is like those shows have been quality. It helps that it's like an era that we're both kind of familiar with, whereas this show is you're familiar with it and I'm just playing catch up.
Yeah, it's the classic expert and everyman format.
But that one is like two people who lived it and loved it, and it's a lot of fun, and I recommend everyone go check it out. There's a free episode up somewhere, I think.
I think the first one's free. If not, we might make it free at some stage.
Yeah, so like if you want to try it out, I'm sure you can. Yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. I'm having good times lately.
TNAchat.com, patreon.com/kiddingme. That brings us to the news. Details aren't known as of press time, but word out of TNA is that top executive Frank Dickerson has left the company. Dickerson was popular with wrestlers for his honest approach and fast learning of the business. He had clashed with Jeff Jarrett several weeks back. When TNA wrestlers were in Australia, there was some key business Dickerson wanted Jarrett to tend to, and when Jarrett didn't, Dickerson expressed frustration. That may have been enough for him to fall out of favor with Jarrett, who remains extremely powerful in TNA. In fact, sources say he's de facto head booker at this point, which I think is more just that like there is still the booking committee booking the show, but then there is just like the Jarrett of it all hovering around, Jarretting everywhere.
I imagine he like mostly just focuses on himself.
Where he's always suggesting ideas, and particularly ideas for his own top programs.
There you go.
So, former CEO Frank Dickerson was fired by a part owner Bob Carter 3 weeks ago. Majority owner Bob Carter, Dave, to be clear there. Oh no, this is PW Torch. Dickerson will be completing a 90-day period of training his replacement for the position. The replacement is in his mid-30s, has no wrestling knowledge, and made his money in the oil business working for the financial branch of Panda Energy. One source says Dickerson was not pleased with the sudden firing. Most people aren't pleased with sudden firings. I've learned that in my life. Very few people are like, oh, thank God. Actually, sometimes people are like, thank God, but...
There's people like quiet quitting normally.
And has enough financial and business experience to form his own wrestling promotion if he wants to pursue that. The wrestling bug bit him, says one source to PW Torch. The firing came as a surprise to Dickerson, who played an integral role in negotiating the Spike TV deal, went to bat for Dixie Carter and Jeff Jarrett in meetings with corporate sponsors, and was regarded as a team player. Dickerson was instrumental in signing the talent exchange deals between New Japan and TNA through the NWA, and Liger was the first wrestler, but not the last, as it turns out. There's speculation he might be the last because of that, but no, he's not. We get more next year. We get more in January, actually. So, other projects that Dickerson was working on have currently been placed on hold as well. TNA currently has an 18-month deal with Spike TV, and Spike aren't too concerned. There's always like a thing in wrestling where it's like, oh, they have to have the executive who struck the deal, otherwise the company will hate them. It's like, no, if you're doing ratings, the company, the TV networks don't really care who they're dealing with. They just want numbers.
Kind of sick that he was like, yeah, we need to get this New Japan.
Yeah, he's like international relationships, which like it has always been a part of TNA's identity, you know, going back to the World X Cups and the Super X Cups and all that fun stuff. But you did all that without one of the real heavy hitters. Like even the Japan teams were always like weird all Japan jobber teams. You weren't even getting the A players from anybody. So finally striking one of those deals where you can get some of like the decent level stars over.
Is Frank Dickerson still alive?
Probably. I think I looked at his LinkedIn years ago, but I haven't looked recently.
I wonder if he'll sponsor me.
Just start your own wrestling company?
You think I should send him a message on LinkedIn like, brother, it's time?
Yo, Frank, you want to get back in the wrestling business?
I can do it. Put me in, coach. Give me your money and put me in.
It's only been nearly 20 years.
But it's 8. It said right here the wrestling bug bit him.
Yeah, he's still been thinking about it for the entire time.
He's just like, I just need some podcasting host to contact me and I'll do it.
It's all going so well with TNA.
If only someone who watched the TNA could contact me. Doesn't no one know that the wrestling bug bit me?
So unfortunately, we won't be able to laugh at Frank Dickerson's name anymore, Liam. I'm sorry.
It's been a good run.
I know this is a big hit to your enjoyment of doing this show. You can have a nice little chuckle at Frank Dickerson.
Frank Dickerson Promotions coming soon, though.
With CM Punk.
Oh, there you go.
He's the businessman behind CM Punk Pro.
Me and CM Punk running the promotion.
With Frank Dickerson.
With Frank Dickerson's money.
Dixie Carter says drugs are not a problem in TNA.
Yeah, they're the bloody solution.
There's a Dixie quote if you'd like.
I gave up on the voice. We keep very, very close tabs on our locker room situation.
TNA president Dixie Carter told AudioWrestling.com.
We had some guys in trouble in the far past. Raven in the past. Alright, no need to do that. Most of the people we deal with don't drink any. Whatever their demons were in the past, they've kicked.
Dixie responded that because the wrestlers on TNA's roster don't fit the model of a WWE bulked up wrestler, a drug policy similar to WWE's isn't applicable to the company.
You can tell by looking at our roster that we're not necessarily about size,
Dixie said.
You don't have to be a bulked up talent to be successful on our show. We have a different philosophy as far as the type of wrestlers and the style of wrestler.
When asked about WWE's implementation of a drug policy, Dixie said,
I applaud what they're doing. I respect what they're doing. Right now, we don't have a specific drug policy in place. We haven't really had any problems, so I don't know exactly where we're going to go.
Dixie says she's talked to former WWE wrestlers who have gone through WWE's previous drug policy.
It is not a flawless system, but it is an important system,
Dixie said.
There's such pressure on these guys. I can't imagine having to live with that kind of pressure, having to compete where that's so important. I really feel for them.
When asked about building TNA and establishing a foundation for the company, Dixie said October 1st was the beginning of the company.
The first 3 years were research and development and investment money,
Dixie said.
We've been very smart with our money as we continue to make more money and build a business foundation that when the money did start coming in, that losing money would never be an issue with us.
I like the idea that she's just like, everything before Spike Davey doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Not real. All that money we lost, only like R&D.
Yeah, it's fair. I proposed that idea before, that the first 3 years of TNA were just for video packages.
Yeah, it was just for B-roll and video packages that you could put in the Spike debut, which worked pretty well, to be fair.
So I guess we're on the same wavelength as Dixie in that regard. I like how that story goes directly into a Jeff Hardy story.
Oh, you might see that I have somewhat set the next two stories to directly perhaps contradict what Dixie Carter is saying.
That's storytelling, baby.
But yeah, so as you might expect, in the wake of Eddie Guerrero's death, there was a larger spotlight on the drug testing policies for these companies and whether or not there's something they can do to perhaps help wrestlers who are struggling instead of having them repeatedly fall on their back while they also have addiction problems. Those two things don't add up to something good, as it turns out, as we learned the hard way very, very often in professional wrestling for like 40 years. So there's pressure on these companies to WWE obviously have established their wellness policy, I think in the wake of Eddie, wasn't it? Or was it in the wake of Benoit? I think it was in the wake of Eddie. And then Dixie is like, we don't need no drug testing. Everybody's here is clean, sober, everyone's having a good time. We don't even need to look well bulked up. We don't even drink around here.
Which is hilarious.
Oh, Dixie.
I'm gonna specifically name bloody Scotty the Body though. That's a bit cold, Dixie.
Yeah, of all the people you're going to throw under the bus as well, literally Jeff Hardy's no-showing your shows every 2 weeks, but you throw Raven under the bus?
No, Jeff's a star.
Speaking of, Jeff Hardy was originally scheduled for an 8-man tag team match during the pre-show. Hardy no-showed and he was replaced with Lance Hoyt. That could be his final strike for him in TNA, unless he has a great excuse. He did not. He is fired in January. We have seen the last of Jeff Hardy. Until 2010.
Forever.
Until he comes back in 2010, but this is the end of this Jeff Hardy run because he has no-showed one time too many, and Jeff Hardy is Dunskies.
And he's about to go have the most successful run of his career.
Which is kind of wild to think about. That he crashed out of TNA, not in humiliation, because that would happen in 2011, but in very ignominious fashion. That he's done. He's very clearly been booked the last few months as a guy they want to have around just for the value of having Jeff Hardy around, but don't want to do anything with because they cannot rely on Jeff Hardy. So there's a lot of him just kind of being on the show in relatively meaningless capacities. And rightfully so when you look at the reliability. And there's part of you, it's you put him in an 8-man tag team pre-show match, of course he's gonna fucking no-show it. But also, if you can't trust him to actually do a real pay-per-view match, what else are you gonna do with him?
Yeah, it's this is the opportunity where you show that you can be trusted.
Where you're willing to go out there and be a team player for a relatively low-stakes match, and then everyone's like, all right, maybe we can put him in something bigger next month. And he's like, nope, fuck it, not doing this shitty match.
But how have you felt about Jeff Hardy's first run? Sum it up in one word. Is that the word?
That's my word.
Mine is disappointment.
Yeah, because he's still Jeff Hardy, but only 15-20% of Jeff Hardy.
Oh, I was gonna say that's being generous.
There is glimpses every so often where it's oh, that's Jeff Hardy in there somewhere, but there's so much before that Jeff Hardy can get out, and there's only very fleeting glimpses of when he did get out, mostly when he was working with Abyss and freaking out at tables, because even when those matches went badly, they were extremely funny. So...
And the Ravens cage match.
Yeah, there was that silly little run, because he was a very serious wrestler to start, which is to be expected. He's Jeff Hardy, you bring him in, he's your main event player, he's in a main event program with Jeff Jarrett, fine. And then he moved into plunder stuff with Abyss and Raven, and that was when he was at least productively contributing to the show, as opposed to being bad.
That's the best stuff of the run.
When he was just being thrown through tables, and when tables didn't break, he drop kicked them.
That's great.
And then he came back, and he did the Monsters Ball Bound for Glory is awesome, and he is a big part of that and has the biggest spot in that, so you can't take that away from him either. But yeah, the average week to week, there's never a point when I'm watching an Impact and Jeff Hardy comes out,
and I'm thank God Jeff Hardy's here.
Yeah, I'm always oh, Jeff. There's always a little bit of disappointment to even see Jeff Hardy appear on one of these shows. And we'll talk about the last few things he does. He does have a couple TV matches this month, but other than that, he is done. He is finished with TNA until he comes back in 2010. The other major item coming out of the baby was Jeff Hardy no-showing. Hardy, who has no-showed for several times in the past, including once in a push paper match against Raven back at Hard Justice, and was even dropped for a few months after that, was scheduled for an 8-man tag. The belief is Hardy is done, at least for now. TNA has historically always taken people back, though Dave notes not DDP. They're fuck DDP. He wouldn't put over Monty, but Hardy apparently never refused the job. He was willing to do business, but then he also didn't show up.
He was willing to do business when he was there.
Yes. With Hardy, one of the reasons he was brought back was because they wanted to have as many familiar faces as possible when they started on Spike. At this point, they are very low on rationalizations for him. Nobody knew until 2 hours before the start of the show that Hardy was no-showing. When he called to say he missed his flight, he gave no other explanation. The feeling was that Hardy was mad because he was booked in the pre-show match, but he acted as if he just didn't make his flight. And he is done.
Well, what a run.
But everyone's fine. This had nothing to do with any demons or anything. This is just some personal problems with Jeff Hardy. Dixie doesn't need a drug testing program. Nobody in the company even drinks, Liam.
I believe her. Did you not hear her impactful read 3 seconds ago?
Not that this necessarily will change the plans, but Sean Holtman didn't help his cause regarding the plans to bring him back when a few weeks ago, the DoubleTree Hotel in Orlando, the hotel that the wrestlers stay at, alerted TNA management that one of its wrestlers had passed out in a hotel room and they had to break down the door to revive him, and the person in question was Sean Waltman. TNA officials were told Waltman had to be carried out of the room. Waltman apparently admitted he had passed out and was revived, but denied he had to be helped out of the room. There was a storyline to bring him back, and best as they can tell, that is still in the planning stages. We do only see him once. He's a random challenger for Raven in that story, but he doesn't do anything important. Probably because of this, and Dixie saying there's no problems with TNA, everything's fine.
He passed out because he was really tired.
He's just real sleepy from all the hard work he's doing in TNA.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your little Dixie Carter trying to downplay and do damage control post Eddie Guerrero and being directly contradicted by the two people who always directly contradict her. TNA is teasing that the December 11 Turning Point pay-per-view will feature a major surprise that will change the course of the industry. The word going in from PW Torch was that it will get you a short-term buzz, but hardly change the industry in the long run.
Damn, you think you know him?
No, this actually, that is remarkably similar to the New Era stuff, isn't it? God, I didn't put that together even when I was putting together these notes. It's like, yeah, because they were like, this will change. Like, they specifically said change the face of TNA forever, I think is the way they phrased it on the pay-per-view.
You're saying it would be a new era?
Like, yeah, God, he really is Jacksonville Dixie, isn't he?
The worm is turning, as they say.
And like Sting is cooler than Edge, so this is like it's more delivering on TNA than WWE or AEW.
Did people like know it was Sting heading in?
I think so. Actually, no. I think it took to the pay-per-view tease for it to be revealed to be Sting, because all these stories that talk about how Sting has signed a deal actually came out, I think, after the pay-per-view tease. So I think they managed to keep a lid on that one until the pay-per-view.
Good on them.
TNA has made Sting its biggest acquisition to date, at least in terms of price and recognition. The deal is rumored to be for a year, including all pay-per-views and many TV tapings. Sting was one of WCW's top stars during its last dozen years of existence, which is most of its existence. He never.
I was gonna say, what an interesting way to phrase that.
Yeah, during from 1989 to 2001, Sting was one of their top stars
in their biggest years.
He never jumped to the WWF despite several opportunities. TNA marks the second promotion he'll ever work for regularly since becoming a national name. TNA teased for a week that management had a major announcement to make at Sunday's Turning Point. Although Sting didn't appear in person, at the end of the pay-per-view his pending arrival was signaled when the lights went out and they came back on while Jarrett and D'Amore were in the ring, and his signature jacket, baseball bat and boots were sitting in the middle of the ring while some scorpions...
He retired.
Yeah, he's done. While some scorpions appeared on the screen as well.
JPEGs of scorpions.
Yeah, single static JPEGs of scorpions.
That's good production, baby.
At the TV tapings 2 days later, it was announced that Sting would make his debut. He will be teaming with Christian to face Monty Brown and Jeff Jarrett at Final Resolution.
Spoilers.
That is a little bit of a spoiler, but I thought it's important to include here just for context. At the time, former TNA CEO Frank Dickerson, among other voices in management, tried to convince management to spend dollars elsewhere rather than investing in this former wrestler. However, with Dickerson no longer involved in the decision-making process, TNA forged ahead with signing Sting to a 1-year contract. I hope Sting got him fired.
That's his first act coming in.
Get this guy out of here.
So, Sting.
Sting.
One of the biggest signings in the company's history. with Gail Kim and Kurt Angle.
Probably top 3.
I mean, it's very important, to a lot of people from my age bracket. Sting, it's a TNA guy, so obviously made an impact. So, I don't know. I mean, what are we going to do? Criticize the Sting signing?
Like
a guy that would then be there for a decade?
When you're looking at the market of available wrestlers right now outside WWE, there's Chris Jericho who's not going to go. There's Brock Lesnar who legally right now can't go. Then there's Sting and there's Goldberg. Those are the 4 that if you were these, if we need real star power, these are the guys we want to go to. And Sting is about as good as anybody.
He's probably cheaper than Goldberg.
He probably is, and I think he's probably more willing to help you long run than Goldberg, because there's probably Sting is, I think, a more versatile performer for what TNA would ultimately need than Goldberg is, even if Goldberg, I think at the height of Goldberg, was a bigger star than Sting, even if Sting was a bigger star for a longer time than Goldberg.
Yes, signing Sting is a good idea. That is the take here.
Yeah. Adding Sting to your roster, thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
The signing took place this past week and believed to be a 1-year deal, with Spike TV kicking in a significant part of the mid-6-figure deal. It is believed Spike set a precedent by kicking in money for Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz to appear on Ultimate Fighter Season 3, coming up this spring.
It's not coming up this spring.
The spring of 2006, the spring ahead of us where we are in the TNA timeline right now. Though I wouldn't be shocked if they did do a Tito Ortiz, Ken Shamrock 2023 season of Ultimate Fighter.
I gotta get some people to watch those shows.
There have been talks with Sting going back several months. Sting turns 47 in March and was one of the big stars in the 90s. There's been a lot of talk that match quality was an issue, but who gives a fuck, it's Sting. Also, Sting is actually pretty darn good, so there's also that. And then Dave points out they brought in Hall, they brought in DDP, they brought in Nash. They don't give a fuck once they can have some stars, and Sting is a bigger star than all those guys.
Yeah, the rest of the roster will pick up the match stuff. And also Sting is still good. And
Sting has the face paint, which means he can, even now in his 60s, get away without feeling too old.
Mm-hmm. And the full get up. He really picked an aesthetic that was gonna lend himself to looking young.
Yeah, because you watch Sting on AEW TV now, and you're not look at that old man.
No, he still just looks like Sting.
He's still Sting. It's Sting, as Tony Schiavone might say.
He might and will and does.
Often. I wonder, does Don West drop in It's Sting? We'll have to keep an eye out for that.
He's a student of the game.
At the end of the Turning Point pay-per-view, there is that tease where they're Sting is coming, and they do a fun thing where they spent ages being could it be? Who could this Scorpion logo be? I thought they weren't even going to say the word Sting, but Mike Tenay does eventually be that's associated with Sting!
That's a way wordier version of what Tony's catchphrase is.
That's a logo associated with Sting!
That'd be great. I hope that's what they do instead.
So they are ramping up their star power naturally. Christian last month, Sting this month. It's the Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson of TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the better 1-2 punch combo to sign? Christian and Sting, or Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson?
The Cole Danielson one led to the biggest run ever.
In the history of wrestling?
For the company.
TNA goes into a rapid period of 3 years of expansion after this. 4 years.
Alright. What about Punk? Can I put Punk in there?
No, he doesn't count. He burned out.
It's probably in the same amount of time.
Alright, who's who would we have to include? Punk is Rhino, I guess.
Yeah, so it's Punk, Cole, Christian. Well, before that it was Christian. It's Punk, Cole, Danielson, and Christian, Rhino, and Sting.
You got your indie dream guys versus your cool stars.
I think I gotta give it to the AE dub on that one.
Rhino will just gore Punk in half.
Rhino should wrestle Danielson on Collision.
Probably have a good match.
Yeah, I mean, Danielson will get it out of anyone.
Heavy shot at Rhino.
It was intended.
Wow.
I haven't watched it in forever. It could be good.
So yes, Sting will be here, and we will be talking more about Sting long into the future, because the three top stars of TNA are Styles, Sting, and Angle. Those are the three guys who are for the next 8 years will be the guys who are the three TNA guys who pretty much everything revolves around.
You seem to have forgotten a name there.
Who did I forget?
And let me spell it out for you. JEFFJARRETT. What's that spell?
We only have one more year of this being the Jeff Jarrett company. Then it becomes a company that has Jeff Jarrett in it.
It's gonna be weird in a post-Jarrett world. a post-Jarrett planet.
Like, we all say, like, you could argue that, like, Jarrett being the top guy until the likes of Sting and Christian and Angle came in makes sense. But also, like, he hoovered up so much of the oxygen during that period that he made sure there would be nobody else but him until guys like that came in.
It's crazy how much this show is gonna fucking hit into overdrive once Angle comes in.
Yeah.
And is just a fucking maniac.
Mm.
You know, that's the thing. Like, 2005 has been good, but you know what? It hasn't been insane enough.
It hasn't been crazy, that's true.
And I'm ready for insanity.
2005 TNA has been too competent and coherently put together for your tastes.
You know what? It was pleasant to have after the boring era, but I want TNA what it's known for, and that's pure insanity.
You'll have to wait until September next year. Well, it's October.
We're getting there.
We only have about a year left of good TNA.
And then we're in the, like, until, like, 2013, when is the next good year.
And we do get, like, bits and bobs, because we're coming up on, like, obviously this month we start Alex Shelley at ringside with the paparazzi cam. That's like, there's the little beginnings of paparazzi productions this month, so there's some fun stuff.
We get
going.
to see him being a pervert around Sting soon, so that's great.
Although he recently signed a contract as a TNA wrestler, Kevin Nash may retire from in-ring action. The health scare from the night before his scheduled pay-per-view match on October's Bound for Glory brought on anxiety from fear of potentially suffering an injury in the ring, may cause him to rethink any future plans to return to the ring. He did get clearance from a cardiologist that his heart was not in bad shape and he's not at risk of a heart attack just for wrestling, but other issues are weighing on him. So it seems, at least Nash is suggesting, that the Bound for Glory incident was a panic attack?
That makes sense.
That he couldn't really deal with the Bound for Glory main event and also just feared he'd get hurt because of how quickly he got hurt when he tore his quad when he returned to WWE.
It's like the most reasonable shit I've ever heard in my life.
Because, yeah, there was that thing where he returned to the ring, he ran down to the ring, and he tore his quad when he literally got in the ring.
For, like, an industry that's full of gigantic weirdos who don't care enough about the logistics of this insane sport that they're a part of, this is the most realistic shit that I've ever heard any of them talk about, where he's like, you know, it's just dawned on me, I can get hurt just from getting in the ring. And then I have to go and take bumps?
Well.
Insanity. Well, I have to go in and take bump?
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Although he had a strong match on pay-per-view with Jarrett earlier in the year, he prepared much more for that match than this scheduled pay-per-view match, which is on him. He knew it was happening. That lack of preparation is what led to the fear, which manifested itself as a panic attack. That he wouldn't put in a good showing and might get hurt. Friends, though, say that while he tries to downplay it, he has a passion for wrestling and will watch tapes in his free time and would like to be involved on and off camera for years to come in some capacity.
I mean, that's the most, like, obvious shit. It's like, we know that he tries to be the cool guy, but this dude, like, still to this day is watching shit.
Yeah, you're not, like, for all you can say about how annoying wrestling podcasters are, and I mean, like, podcasts by wrestlers.
Us included.
Hey, we are cool, and we are... Can't even finish the sentence. For as annoying as they are, you have to like this thing to do it, you know? Especially, like, it's one thing if you're doing, like, the Kurt Angle show or the Mick Foley show where you're predominantly talking about your own career and just sharing stories from your own experience.
Yeah, Kevin Nash is like, yo, let me talk about Kenny Omega and CM Punk real quick.
Yeah, Nash is watching TV and commenting on angles. Like, he's a nerd. He's a sicko for this shit. Yeah.
He can come into Punk Pro with me, Punk and Dickerson.
He can just be there for morale.
No, he can work. Not work.
No, put him in the
road
ring.
agency.
So Nash does come back in the middle of 2006. So
yeah, he wrestles a shit ton.
Yeah, he wrestles pretty consistently until 2011.
And he has another Fed run.
He does do a sledgehammer on a pole match. That's on a ladder, but still.
What a weird reality. That was the time when people were like, is Russo in WWE?
Or they undercut the Summer of Punk by doing a Triple H and Kevin Nash program.
And everyone's like, why is this happening?
UFC has re-signed Tito Ortiz, who will be one of the coaches in the upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter, as we mentioned. I'm mentioning this because there was some thought that Tito would be involved more in TNA, and obviously with him returning to the UFC, that's not the case.
I'd rather Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, former TNA headliner Ken Shamrock has signed as well to be the other coach.
Former TNA headliner. That's how I would describe Ken Shamrock.
He was world champion.
That is his biggest achievement.
It's the only company he won the world title in.
He was a UFC champion.
That's not a real company.
It wasn't even a real title either.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated doesn't recognize that belt.
He was Pancrase champ? Pancreas have title? I don't remember.
So yeah, no Tito going forward, because there was talk that like Tito would be involved in the screwing Nash and Raven would turn heel and there'd be all that kind of shite. That didn't happen because Nash pulled out of the match and then they just strapped up Rhino instead.
Yeah, which, hey, wasn't bad for the moment.
In a TNAWrestling.com poll asking fans what match they were most looking forward to a turning point, Jeff Jarrett versus Rhino finished last with just 4% of the votes.
Yeah, well, like, why would you?
Sabu versus Abyss and Barbed Wire Massacre at 34%.
I'm sorry that the build-up of Rhino talking to a camera for 3 weeks while Jeff Jarrett interacts with Christian wasn't exactly firing people up.
Christian Monty 29%, Styles Joe 24%. So people not into the Jeff Jarrett program.
Evergreen statement.
The November 26th Impact was good news for TNA.
Until 2023.
As they were back to their normal 0.8 level and 972,000 viewers, both figures slightly above their average.
It's really, like, confronting how similar these are to, like, AEW numbers.
The reason I included it is because, like, they had a couple dodgy weeks where everyone was like, TNA is done, the audience, the novelty factor has worn off, the audience are fleeing.
It's the modern talking points. They are the same company!
So like, they did like a 0.6 and 600,000 viewers at one stage, and everyone's like clutching their pearls, being like, this is the end, Spike is going to drop them, they're not doing... And then they came back 0.8, 972,000 viewers, and then it's like, oh, it's fine, everything's fine.
Like, the parallels are insane.
Like, people, you always hear the dopey talking point. That like, oh, the internet's ruined wrestling. It's like, what if wrestling Twitter was around for Montreal? And then you read this shit and you're like, nope, it's always been like this. And if you read like 1987 Observers and you read the reader letters from that, it's always been like this.
Time is a flat circle.
Like, the medium has changed through which we find things out and complain about things, but we find things out and complain about things nonetheless.
Is more readily available. That's the difference.
You don't have to seek it out anymore.
Like, I mean, like, look, X. I'm gonna search the words AEW.
Yeah, read the first tweet you see when you search the words AEW on X.
Latest. CM Punk drama.
Oh.
At this point, it's a reply to a tweet about Punk getting referenced on WWE TV, and I don't know why anyone cares. I mean, the most interesting about his AEW run was the controversies backstage. Thought he got carried by everyone he was in the ring with.
Stupid.
Do you know what I mean? Like those takes are everywhere. If at Triple H brings back at CM Punk to at WWE, rip at AEW.
Oh, god damn it. The idea that Punk is carried is so stupid. He worked like 30 matches. Did 30 people carry him?
Yes.
Oh, well, fair enough.
And those 30 people were the fans.
Whoa.
Yeah, Wrestle Dream did a crazy pay-per-view number.
It did the AEW pay-per-view number.
It did better than All Out by like 20,000.
Yeah, but All Out was right the week after. All Out is the anomaly here. AEW pay-per-views do like 135 to 150,000 buys every time without fail.
442k pay-per-view in like a month and a half. That's wild.
While no decision is official, the current betting line is that Spike TV will be moving Impact to Thursdays within 6 months. The plan at this point is that the...
Is a betting line?
Yeah, Dave actually has a little gambling business on the side.
That's awesome.
The plan is at this point is that the next season of Ultimate Fighter will be a Thursday night primetime show as opposed to 11 p.m. on Mondays, and wrestling works well in conjunction. So most likely by the time the Shamrock Ortiz season starts, Impact will be moved before or after.
It's the DraftKings $20,000 pool. What day is TNA going to end up on?
Yeah, and again, that's run through Dave's website. It's actually WrestlingObserver.com/DraftKings. I'm surprised they actually don't have a DraftKings sponsorship. I think everybody else does.
Where's ours?
Yeah, we can gamble on 2005 TNA. Who will win between Abyss and
Sabu? I don't even think I can use DraftKings here. I think it's like blocked.
We can actually gamble. It's fine. DraftKings only exists because a lot of Americans can't real gamble.
Is that true?
It's like it's been deregulated a lot more, but they're like for years, like you can't bet on sports unless you're in certain places.
That's crazy.
Whereas you can do it on apps here immediately, all the time.
I got like 7.
So yeah, they're moving Ultimate Fighter to Thursdays, and I think Impact would complement that on Thursdays as well. The primetime special did a 0.8, which is better than what would have been expected in a non-regular time slot, and Spike was once again very happy with the number, because the December 8th episode was another primetime special, because the VGAs aired on Saturday that week, so they moved TNA into the Thursday slot again for a primetime special, which had Christian's in-ring debut.
It's Christian.
Bound for Glory on October 23rd ended up doing approximately 35,000 buys, give or take a few thousand, at least based on numbers at this point. The bad news on that number, beside the fact that they promoted the show as their Super Bowl for once, is the number was roughly the same as they were doing for the first few pay-per-views after they got on FSN. The company's profile is much higher on Spike, and they have 4 times as many TV viewers, but that hasn't translated into a lot of new buys. The Genesis show was down to probably closer to 15 to 20,000. So that is like the story of TNA's history. Obviously, they have a substantially larger television audience now than they ever had on FSN, but their pay-per-view number is roughly equivalent to what like Victory Road and Turning Point did at the end of 2004, and that was with 150,000 viewers on FSN. So despite a much larger audience, they have not been able to convert them into paying customers, and frankly never will.
That's rough.
Yeah, well, for pay-per-views anyway. Like, attendance-wise, TNA would often do like 4,000-ish for like big shows on the road.
They're like the opposite of AEW, where like they're more of a live gate thing than a pay-per-view thing at this point.
And like TNA has always been like television. That was always their be-all and end-all, I guess. And especially when Russo comes back, his be-all and end-all, especially so, was television. He did not give a shit about pay-per-view. And like that reflected in the kind of audience they built, and the kind of like what people were willing to give them and pay for them. They were willing to give time, but very rarely money.
I wonder if like that was something to do with maybe the like weekly pay-per-view format.
They like oversaturated pay-per-views immediately.
Yeah.
And like killed the idea that this is a product you even want to pay for.
Yeah.
Which is funny, given like it was a premium product from the start. Like that's in theory that's the case with the shows being behind a paywall. It's like that this is a show you should have to pay for all along, but obviously that wasn't the case for the vast majority of those weekly pay-per-views.
There's like 3 or 4
out of the 110.
Yeah.
So that again, pay-per-view numbers are not up, despite obviously being on a much larger platform.
Before you read this, the little like sidebar that Dave throws in here is the most Dave shit you'll ever read.
So both TNA announcers were on ESPN Classics last week. On December 6th, Don West did a comedy role on Cheap Seats for the hosts, who are big wrestling fans, even though they constantly make fun of it on the air.
That is the most Dave like little sidebar you would ever hear.
It's like they love wrestling, but they always mock it.
Just like most wrestling fans.
That's true. We are a very self-loathing industry.
Oh, we all hate ourselves and our dumb sport that we like.
Go to someone's home and West shows up and does his wrestling hard self from his prior experience on late night TV shopping shows and starts selling her furniture. It's a great bit. Don West just showing up to your house being like, how about this chair? Mike today is on the December 7th show in a segment on why society created Tyrell Owens, basically tracing his behaviour back to Gorgeous George, with Tenay and the Destroyer, who worked with George in one of George's last high-profile feuds, and talking about George in general. Mike Tenay and Don West very much in demand.
Much like Christy Hemme.
TNA has attempted to contact Christy Hemme from the moment she was released. As of press time, she's shown no interest, even though she will show up in a few months.
And be there for like a while.
Yeah, until 2014? There was a time where she was like the highest paid person in the women's division.
Doing her announcing.
Yeah. I liked her as an announcer.
She was a decent announcer, yeah.
They also always did like the pervy shot where it's like every time they'd come back from break and they'd do like the pan up of Christy Hemme's legs. Yeah.
So, Garrett, we're done with the news, but a more important breaking news dropped 10 hours ago, and I think we need to address it.
Okay.
CM Punk. Chris Jericho's movie trailer.
Oh, I watched it this morning.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh.
And I'm going to live react to it right now.
It's literally the first thing I saw when I woke up. It's Chris Jericho's movie trailer.
I have to watch this right now on the air.
So what's the name of it again?
Country Hearts.
Country Hearts.
Premiering on Up TV Sunday, October 22nd. There's also a Christmas spin-off movie, but I'm going to watch it right now.
Please narrate it.
His name is Bones.
Bones.
It's a singing movie.
Yeah, so he's like a washed out musician, and his daughter's trying to make it big. His acting is great. Don't question it.
We have to watch this for the Patreon.
Of course. We still have to watch that Sting movie. We never watched Sting Moment of Truth.
We need to think of a name for wrestler movies. Oh, we have to download the My Up TV app to watch it.
I'll give him money.
All right. Yeah, that's gonna happen. And then we have to watch Country... You know what? Fuck the show that we do with Days of Thunder. We need to watch Country Hearts Christmas this year.
Yeah, screw you, World Wrestling All-Stars. Get the fuck out of here, Road Dogg.
Yeah, we need to do Country Hearts Christmas this year.
You know the way you often see, like, a criticism, it's like, I couldn't see them playing a role, I just saw the actor? Mm-hmm. Never more true than with Chris Jericho in that movie.
He looks like he's cutting a Dynamite promo.
You can't just see Chris Jericho doing, like, I'm from Winnipeg, idiot.
That's stupid. That's so stupid. I want to see it so badly. That is the wrestling movie of the Christmas season. Von Erichs, get out of here.
Yeah, fuck you. We don't want your sad story. We want Jericho's uplifting addict, washed out musician trying to guide his daughter to musical fame.
I'm excited.
So it's coming late October, isn't it?
Yeah, October 22nd.
Day after Bound for Glory.
And then obviously the Christmas one.
That brings us to broad topics, and fuck Jeff Jarrett, let's talk about Samoa Joe.
Oh, okay, I guess.
Upend format, because like Jarrett and Rhino is like the 5th most important thing this month, so we'll start with the best thing this month. Actually, well, yeah, it's probably still the best thing this month, which is the X Division title program between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. So if you remember at Genesis, there was the big angle at the end of Elimination X where Joe beat the shit out of Christopher Daniels, bloodied him, muscle busted him on his chair, kneed him in the head a bunch, and he was sent out on a stretcher as AJ Styles watched on from the ramp being like, hey bro, that's against our code.
Our code of honor. Yeah, so we're into the run that I think a lot of people associate Joe with at this time. Blood towel.
Yeah, he does have the blood towel. So the first match on the first Impact this month is Samoa Joe against Jarrell Clark, and he does come to the ring wearing the towel with the blood of Christopher Daniels draped over his shoulder, and it is the coolest fucking shit.
Yeah, so like obviously heading into this show, I was like in my malaise of, I have to watch TNA. And then I put it on, and Samoa Joe killed Jarrell Clark, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's go TNA.
TNA is back. TNA is the best. TNA is the best thing that's ever happened.
Pretty much.
So yeah, squash. Joe wins with the Muscle Buster Coquina clutch. He holds the clutch on Clark after the match as the referees are like, get the fuck off him. That's like my favorite part about all of this current Samoa Joe character. He is just a bitch. He's just a bitch who wants to hurt people.
Which is why I think it's like translating so well in 2023, because he's just doing the same thing.
Styles addresses Joe from the Tron, and he says, you broke the code of the X Division, and it's not often that X Division challengers challenge the challenger, but I'm going to challenge you as champion.
Yep, you may think Garrett fucked that up. But actually, that was just an accurate representation of what AJ Styles said.
Maybe even a little better. So yeah, I do like that as a hook though, that like, you know, it's very rare that the champion challenges the challenger, but Styles is like, I want you for an X Division title match.
Because he's pissed.
Because he hurt his, not friend, but he respects Christopher Daniels.
His frenemy.
His buddy. His pal.
Well, that would just be friend.
Buddy.
You broke your own point.
Damn. His rival. Which is right. He is his rival. But November 26th Impact, they show a brief video from Brad N. Holman, D.O., which is a doctor of osteopathic medicine.
This guy rules, because he's like, I believe he's a real doctor.
I looked it up. He is a real doctor.
Yes, but they just gave him like $20 and we're like, hey, can you just say some bullshit?
Yeah, and it's literally like 30 seconds. And he's like, Daniels has a grade 3 concussion. He will make a full recovery, but he is not cleared right now.
A grade 3 concussion?
I don't know what the grades of concussions are, but 3 sounds hard.
I wonder if that's like, is it like grade 4 or is grade 3 the max?
I don't know. I've never had a concussion, at least not that I know of.
Is it a grade 5 scale normally, but then one day it broke and went to grade 6?
Ridiculous. That leads us into AJ Styles and Chris Sabin in a real good little TV match.
It's always fun to see these guys just go out on TV and do some bullshit.
Because we never get a big like pay-per-view Styles and Sabin match. That's never happened. But we do get at least like 3 lovely little TV sprints. One in particular in 2009 that's like one of my favorite 5-minute matches ever. And that's what this is. These two go out and have like a 7-minute, 8-minute TV match that's real good. It's Styles and Sabin going out there. And it just kind of rocks for what it is.
Yeah.
Because if you read like Observer reviews of, we've given out about Dave a lot. We've become one of those podcasts. But if you read Observer reviews of this era of Impact, you'll hear Dave giving out a ton every single week about how they're trying to squeeze too much into these shows. And I disagree.
I don't think there's enough. He's like, I really want that Jeff Jarrett-Kip James match to go another 10.
Like, I do understand, like, wanting a match like Styles and Sabin to get more time. I would have liked them to get a pay-per-view match at some time in their career.
Like, the idea, I guess, is like, you get little tastes of it on TV, but then when you want the full-length thing, you get it on a pay-per-view, just in cases like Styles and Sabin, it doesn't work out that way all the time.
Yeah, and when you are dealing with an hour for the whole company. Like, you have an hour to get every pay-per-view program on TV every week. You don't have the time to give Styles and Sabin 20.
Or at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so real cool match. Styles responds to a series of strikes and then punctuates it with a knee that seemed to like legit knock Sabin back. Like Sabin did the stagger back in a way that was super realistic, or he actually got his bell rung. Either way, it looked great.
Sure does my favorite thing, which is just like, I love challenger or champion coming out onto the apron and just like staring down as the match is going on.
Especially when it's not like done as a, like, I hate it when it's a distraction finish because that's stupid.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be a distraction. It should just be like, this guy's scouting.
And not only scouting, he's just like, I'm just going to get in that guy's head by standing here.
And also, I'm going to take his shine. I'm going to make his match and his win about me. Again, that's Samoa Joe being a petty bitch.
He is. He's just a little petty bitch who also kills people.
It's kind of a remarkable combination.
I love the finish of this match. So the Styles is going for the Styles Clash right near the ropes. And Sabin pushes him overhead, but Styles' legs bounce off the ropes. He rebounds back into the Styles Clash for the win. Real smooth, real cool finish.
That's the kind of thing you'd expect from these two.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, the Styles Clash is the kind of move that you would think, it's like, there's not a lot of like versatile ways you can get somebody into that kind of move.
To be fair, there probably isn't. They were just dealing with the mind of AJ Styles.
Yeah, you're just dealing with a generational wrestler who's like, I need to find ways into that move that aren't just the same. So he does like the roll through out of a Rana. He does like, he caught Low-Key out of a Phoenix Splash into it once. He did that with Ricochet at one stage as well in WWE.
It looked good with Ricochet too.
Yeah, he does find cool ways into a move that seems pretty rigid to set up because he is a good pro wrestler. So at the start of the December 3rd Impact, Don West is awaiting the arrival of Raven, and he's just hanging out. And Samoa Joe walks past him with AJ's name taped on his wrist tape, and John's like, what the hell, dude?
Does that mean when Joe started putting his own name on his wrist, he was going to attack himself?
Yes, he's going to bloody himself.
That's crazy.
And then my favorite part of the segment, Don West just turns the other direction and Bobby Heenan is there.
Yeah, just unrelated.
Don's like, Bobby Heenan!
I hope that's a shoot.
Yeah, they surprise them with Bobby.
It's like, because I think we maybe have mentioned it before, it was on the watch along or something, that I was like, Don West strikes me as a guy who was like, okay, I'm doing the wrestling thing. I don't know a lot about it or what to do. I'm running on charisma here. I'm just going to watch 1 billion Bobby Heenan My TNA tapes. And just try and get an idea of the cadence, try and like study up, and then like becoming a giant fan of Bobby Heenan, and then suddenly Bobby Heenan is in TNA and he's freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, and calling a match with them and everything.
Yeah, because like didn't you get that vibe? Like this guy was like, okay, I need to learn how to be an announcer. I'm gonna watch a bunch of Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, and what makes that, as you said, especially with the chemistry with TNA and like Bobby and TNA were best pals, and TNA and West were best of pals. So there's I think a logical through line there.
Oh yeah, it's like the next generation of the team.
And we'll talk about why Heenan was there in a little bit. So Joe had AJ on his wrist tape, and then there's a little MCU stinger at the end of the show where Joe is just kneeing the shit out of AJ against a road case backstage.
I like that this is just a Ring of Honor offer feud.
Yeah, and screaming, I don't respect your code.
What code is it? What's the code? Austin.
I love the degree to which they're very clearly avoiding saying the words honor.
That's like, why? Like, you're friends at this point still, aren't you?
There's a code of respect. There's a code of decency. There's a code of like, you don't injure the opponent.
That's just a code?
That's just a code, but not a code of honor. It's something completely different.
No, a code of impact.
Joe's beating the shit out of him. Then go home show, Samoa Joe faces the returning Amazing Red.
It made me sad.
That Red is just a job guy.
Every time I see Red, it just makes me sad.
Yeah, it's like the decline of Red from like when he was at his like TNA peak in late 02, early 03 to now.
The craziest thing, being someone coming into this for like the first time, is I didn't realize it was so early. I thought for sure it was a way like, I thought like in my head, I guess I would have thought it would have been like this time was when like Red was peaking. But like he was like a dude exclusively who peaked in the Asylum.
Yeah, and the early days of this, like very early Ring of Honor, early TNA is like the peak of Red before like the knee injuries start catching up with them immediately.
Maybe that's like because I was mostly exposed to Red in like 2010 2009 range when he like came back and won the title.
And like I think he found himself again. Like he found the version of Red that he could be consistently, which he absolutely didn't post his knee injuries here in like 04-05.
I don't know, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so Red gets completely squashed by Joe. Alex Shelley is filming at ringside. My favorite little spot, Joe's going for the face wash, and then Alex Shelley gets in a little too close trying to film the face wash and cuts off like the big charging face wash. And Joe's like, what the hell, man?
I'm sure they had like my ROH watch of these early years was a while ago now, but I'm sure they did something at some point too.
Joe and Shelley?
Joe and Red specifically.
Red does beat Joe for the X title in 2009.
Yeah, I just meant like more like before Red's knees exploded,
which is a fun little future thing to this. That like this is just a random throwaway.
When his knees explode?
Yeah, well, yeah. Everyone loves when their knees explode. It's great for them in their career.
Happened to me.
It ended your wrestling career.
Yeah, before it even started. You know what the irony about that is? That's my good knee now.
What happened to the other knee?
Like I have attested since day one that the kneecap popping in and out cleared up some level of like atrophy in there, and ever since that happened, like after the healing process, that knee has been way stronger.
Is there a little bit you think though that you had to overcompensate on the quote unquote strong knee that has made it the weak knee?
No, because I felt it almost immediately. Was like it felt like stuff had cleared up that was like in there, like torn tissue or something. It was weird.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like bone goes back stronger kind of thing.
I mean, maybe, but like I always found it odd, but like interesting. Like I'm not talking about like in the years preceding it. I mean, what's the opposite of preceding? Post-seeding.
Sure.
In the years post-seeding it, I'm talking about like in like months, like after it healed, it was already on the other. Like I could tell that like it felt better. Just odd.
Yeah, because I broke my leg twice, and like
what?
Yeah, not recently. I was like 3.
Like how bad were the breaks?
I think like the second break was because it wasn't properly healed the first time. Because I slipped on a toy car and broke my leg.
Like, was it like a full break?
Yeah, I was.
You got like kid bones, so like you're probably fine regardless.
Yeah, but I was in a cast for a while, and then I slipped on a Lego catalog and re-broke it.
Oh, he's slipping, this guy. This guy's been taking bumps since 3.
Yeah, and my mom insisted that she didn't think it healed properly the first time, which is the reason I broke it again. But like that was when I was 3, and like I have no weakness in either. Like I think it was my right leg I broke. I want to say.
Oh, you broke it in the most malleable time, to be fair.
When bones are still growing and they're not formed.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Did you like remember it?
I don't really remember. I have like vague feelings of going to hospital and stuff, but I don't have like strong memories.
Probably good that you don't remember that pain.
Yeah, from breaking it twice.
Yeah. Well, they say third time's the charm.
But yeah, I haven't come near breaking a bone since. I should break one just for the feeling.
We should break one on the podcast.
My freaking tailbone still hurts from when I took that bum like 2-3 weeks ago.
You probably knocked something out of place.
I think I probably bruised it, I think is what had happened. But I think that we talked about that in the watch along, I want to say. Or one of these Patreon shows. I can never remember.
Felt what it was like.
It is always so funny when people like mention things we mentioned on shows from 2 years ago. It's like, buddy.
They mentioned things on the show that I just did and I don't remember it.
Yeah. I found actually last time, because there was a Rain Takers we recorded like 2 weeks in advance, and someone mentioned something to you in Discord. I'm like, he doesn't remember that because that was 2 weeks ago.
I literally, though, I could have recorded it the day before and I wouldn't have.
Yeah, it just goes in and out at once.
As soon as it leaves my mouth, I've forgotten what I've said in this show.
So Joe beats Red with the Muscle Buster Coquina Clutch, which is the more perplex move of the night. Shelley ran away from Joe, and this is the last we'll see of Red until 2009.
That's kind of crazy. But, like, you know, he's been a spotty, like, appearances at this point, even.
Yeah, because, like, when D'Amore took over, there was a bunch of people they brought back. Like, they brought back Shelley, they brought in Joe, they brought back Sanjay. All those people have been sticking around as regulars, and they also brought back Red at that stage, who has not stuck around as a regular. And I think the sad thing is, right call.
It's weird.
So that does bring us to the pay-per-view match, in which Samoa Joe defeats AJ Styles for the X Division Championship. In maybe the best match in TNA history to this point?
Yeah, well, no, because the cage.
I think I prefer Triple X AMW, but this is a pretty strong number 2, I think.
Well, we gave that 5, and we gave this 4 3/4, so...
This is, I think, the most physical match in TNA history. They beat the shit out of each
other.
The
best singles match so far.
Oh, easily. Like, Sabin Hoovy might be the other best singles match. It might be Daniel's AJ.
Yeah, but, like, you know, it's a thin list at this point.
Nash. Jarrett.
Jarrett.
Watts.
Well, yes. That was yeah, well, okay, listen, we have to focus on my bits.
But yeah, super physical, super violent. They beat the living hell out of each other. These two guys at this moment in time are two of the people who have like the most perfect chemistry imaginable, or like AJ is super bump, like made out of rubber, bounce off the mat guy, and Samoa Joe is evil monster who will beat the living shit out of anything in front of him. And those two things combined at this point in their respective careers, where I think arguably this is the best version of Joe wrestling the best version of AJ, and they just go out there and have the match you would expect these two to have at this moment, with a red hot crowd. Like the sacrifice match had some like finish shenanigans with Daniels running in. None of that this time. Straight up match between these two as they just kill each other. They just kill each other.
Delivers it every way you can imagine. You've often said that like the Samoa Joe is what AJ Styles needed to become AJ Styles, and it's like we're seeing that now.
Yeah, and this is it, because like this version of AJ, and it's one of the things I really hate about like talking points about wrestlers, in that there would have been a talking point that like this version of AJ isn't like TV ready, or he's not like what you would consider a traditional TV wrestling star, and that he doesn't do the 20-minute promos, he doesn't do a lot of what wrestling was for years and years. But you look at like the way AJ sells everything in this match, like when he hits his dropkick and he pumps himself up, or when he gets dropped on his head and he does that like dead-eye 30-yard stare, like all of the little performance elements of AJ Styles at this stage are so perfect. He is like the best wrestler in the world at this stage.
You know who like kind of has that vibe for me now, who's like not ready in the traditional senses, but like as soon as he's in the ring you forget about it? Kyle Fletcher. It's like a guy who like struggles to promo, but the minute he's in the ring you start to see why people think that this guy could be a giant star.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was just thinking about that then because I was thinking about how on Collision it's Fletcher and Danielson this week. And I'm just like, it just has such a similar aura about it.
Need Danielson to beat the shit out of him?
He's definitely going to beat the shit out of him. So let it be known now, I'm saying in 2023 that Kyle Fletcher will be as big as AJ Styles.
He is the next AJ, yes.
If it doesn't happen, we forget that I ever mentioned it. And if it does, we victory lap this audio for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and when Mark Davis turns on him, he can be a Samoa Joe and beat the shit out of him.
Oh, that match will rule. I'm a bit like, right now I love Davis more than Fletcher. I see why people are like, Fletcher's going to be the guy, but Davis is my kind of wrestler, just the rough and tumble beat the fuck out of you guys. So I'd be really into that.
I do appreciate how like they stuck to the actual story of the match in the match itself, because like the first 2 or 3 minutes is AJ just wailing on Joe, because like the idea is AJ challenged Joe for the match.
Pissed.
He's mad at what he did to Daniels, so like he dominates Joe for the first couple of minutes, like taking the fight to him, hits him with a suplex, hits him with the dropkick. That dropkick is like one of the best dropkicks you'll ever see.
And like that's talking about AJ Styles.
Yeah, because it's like the drop down float over dropkick, which is always awesome as it is. But one, in the way AJ reacted to it, as I mentioned, like that big pump up moment for him where he hit that dropkick and like you can see the adrenaline is pumping through that man. And then you watch the way Joe sold it, in that he didn't immediately take a bump for it. Like he took the dropkick, he whipped his head back to sell the dropkick, and then took like a delayed stagger bump, and it looked so good.
Good shit.
Yeah, so then Joe finally got his hands on Styles, turned the tide with some, like, evil strikes. He starts kicking him, and Mike Tenay just starts squealing. Like, Mike Tenay's like, oh, God!
He started squealing.
Kicks his leg out in the apron, swings him into the rail, and then, like, you get into what is always my favorite portion in any of these Samoa Joe matches against any of these kind of wrestlers he can just eat alive, where he does just eat people up and dominate them and beat the shit out of them. And, like, he's gotten more and more into, like, the performance aspect of that later in his career, because he can't do as much of the physical aspect of it as he used to be able to do back here. But like he did, when you watch it, the same with the MJF match, it's like that heat segment with Samoa Joe is like one of the most charismatic heat segments you'll ever see in your life, because Joe knows how to eat somebody up more than pretty much, like, Walter is the only other wrestler who's like a point of comparison for me in the last 20 years.
What a perfect little summary.
AJ looks to fire up with a discus lariat, but then Joe just slaps him and finishes his face wash. Styles breaks out the Fosbury flop for the first time in ages, as the announcers point that out, and then flying forearms him in the back of his head. Styles power bombs Joe for 2.
But it's like Styles is a strong motherfucker.
And like this is the stage where Joe can kind of take bumps like that, but Styles is a freak. He's just a freak.
Like, he's like bleeding. Shit's gone crazy.
Yeah, he's bleeding from the mouth, which is a fun little thing. If you look at the TNA Impact video game, the facial scan of AJ was taken in the immediate aftermath of this match. So because he got his lip busted open, if you actually zoom in real close on the AJ Styles character model in the TNA Impact video game, you can see his busted lip from this match.
I'm zooming.
There's actually a cool featurette in the actual game, the making of the game, where they show that. They zoom in on his character model. They're like, you can actually see the moment from when his lip was busted because we took his face scan right after this match.
You can see it.
It's real cool. Joe crushes AJ with a lariat that lands AJ on his head. AJ kicks out at one. Joe hits a tiger bomb. AJ kicks out at one again. He hits the Styles Clash, but Joe kicks out, goes up for the spiral tap, but Joe pushes the ref into the ropes. AJ leaps off the ropes into an O'Connor roll, but Joe pulls him into the clutch for the submission victory. Samoa Joe is your new X Division champion.
And it feels right.
And I like it would have been very easy to put the belt on Joe immediately. Like, we are now 6 months.
They showed some restraint.
Yeah, we're now 6 months into Joe being in TNA, and he is now X Division champion. Like, he ran through the X Division in a way that was like really organic. They were smart that they did the 3-way in September so that they could have Styles beat Daniels to avoid beating Joe and push that down the road a little further. And then you get to this match which it really caps off, I think, both men's 2005s. You know, when you think of AJ with the Abyss match, the Daniels matches, with the Joe and Daniels match, with even like the world title stuff with the King of the Mountain, and then the Ultimate X all the way back in January. Like the pay-per-view year AJ has had this year, the Shawn Waltman match as well, which was really good. The pay-per-view year AJ has had this year is fantastic, and then this closes it off. And then you look at like the year Joe has had, where he comes in at Slammiversary, beats Sanjay, looks awesome, has that awesome match with Sabin, an awesome match with AJ, an awesome match with AJ and Daniels, a good match for what it is with Jushin Liger, and then starts building up to this match to beat AJ. It's like a real good culmination of both men's years.
Yeah, that is kind of like a perfect little bow on everything they've done, and it kind of makes sense in that way that it's AJ and Joe who have this moment in the match, and that Joe is the guy to beat AJ.
And then to go back to Joe being a little petty bitch, and the thing I love more than anything, like after the match, he's won the X title. He's the new champion. He's won the match. He pulls AJ up and then just brains him with the belt because it's like, fuck you.
But he shakes MJF's hand.
That drove me nuts. It drove me so nuts. I hate it. I hate handshakes and I hate respect in wrestling these days. I hate it.
But the code! I'm
so sick of every match ending in a handshake or a hug. I want anger. I want people to hate each other. I want Samoa Joe to be mad because MJF beat him. I want him to choke him out after the match and try and get his title shot back.
I'm on my second screen. I have like some random Dusty Rhodes Bruiser Brody match from 1978, and I'm just like imagining, yes, after these two go to war, they shake hands in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, they hug each other and do a little promo about how much we love wrestling. Fuck off.
Like, I think there's a place for it, but it shouldn't be every match.
It's the kind of thing you do like once every 2 years at the culmination of it. Like Claudio and Kingston, I actually had no problem with it.
Yeah, because that's a gigantic run and a gigantic story.
Yeah, that's like the culmination of that story being a small show of respect between two men who hate each other. Makes sense. Like, that's good. That works. But then you do it with Joe and on the same fucking show, because of course they do, because they only have two ideas. But she do the same thing with Joe and MJF. Like, fuck off. No, you should be mad. He got screwed. He got cheated out of the win.
Instead of talking about Dusty real quick, my man has like a golf ball sized welt in the middle of his forehead.
From this match or just in general?
Yeah, I think from this match. And like his left shoulder just has gig marks all down it. This man is a maniac.
Well, he's not called Work Soft Brother Brody.
Well, I think that might have been Dusty's doing the gig marks. But yes, Bruiser Brody does not have certainly has a reputation.
So the post-match angle continues. He's beaten down on AJ after the match, and Daniels makes his return to make the save. He runs wild for a minute, but then Joe connects with a headbutt and Daniels staggers back.
It's awesome that he just kills him again.
Yeah, so Daniels completely loses his balance. Joe starts wailing on him again as security separate them. So the angle being that Daniels isn't fully recovered from his concussion, so he's returned too soon to get revenge, and one headbutt caused his head to go woo.
That and the Danielson 30-minute draw.
Yeah, in a fun touch, Bryan Danielson beat Christopher Daniels to keep the ROH title in the main event of the November 19th Ring of Honor show. The match went about 30, with Daniels winning with a hard forearm, and the idea of the finish was he won with a forearm because Daniels was concussed against Joe. So they're even playing a little off the TNA angle in Ring of Honor, which I think is fun. So there's a story about how apparently, like, even Styles and Daniels didn't love the idea that Daniels did his big comeback and got laid out again, being like, that makes the babyface look weak, makes Joe look too strong, Daniels looks like a nerd.
But he's injured.
Yeah, and I think it's a much better story. It's a much cooler story that, like, he did come back, he rushed back, he wants revenge against this guy.
That makes him, like, more of a babyface. That, like, he wasn't ready for it, but he had to go out there and try and defend his honor.
And stop Joe from doing to AJ what he did to Daniels, which is, like, what he was going to do.
That's how you babyface the guy.
Yeah, and it's a cooler story that, like, he hits one headbutt and he's like, oh fuck, I'm super concussed. So yeah, it's also Dave refers to the Unbreakable match as the 9/11 three-way, which, listen, the match did happen on September 11th, but you can't just call matches the 9/11
the most important event to ever happen on that day.
You can't just casually be like, oh, the 9/11 three-way. That date's off limits. There are several different ideas being batted around for AJ Styles for a January pay-per-view match, not limited to Shannon Moore, Tiger Mask, Black Tiger, Ultimo Dragon, and even Kenta.
I like the idea that we have this New Japan relationship, but let's bring in Kenta.
Yeah, it's like, maybe Kenta.
I have no clue what that match is. Is it any of those names?
It's not any of those names. It's a certain Ace.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that match.
Go, Ace.
If he has that theme, I'll be very shocked.
I do like immediately after this match, while they're teeing up to go to the main event, like, Mike and Don are just at the announce desk being like, this is the fucking best pay-per-view that has ever been presented.
Like, we were talking about that when we were watching it, like, that's awesome. And AEW needs to feel itself more and come across like that during pay-per-views.
Like, Mike is like, there is nothing in this industry like a 3-hour TNA Sunday pay-per-view. We keep topping ourselves. We got Barbed Wire Massacre. We got that last Samoa Joe AJ match. We are fucking rocking it.
That's the thing, like, why is Excalibur and Taz not doing that?
You gotta have swagger. You gotta back yourself.
Like, I get you don't want to end the show with that, but, like, you do it on, like, fucking, like, the Forbidden Door is a perfect example. You have Omega Ospreay on that show, and you don't just go, fuck yeah, we're the coolest and greatest and the best.
Or, like, even, like, after Wrestle Dream, like, after Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., you should be cutting back to that announce desk. And fair enough, you did have Mox at that desk being like...
Mox kind of did it, yeah.
Like, this is the fucking best thing I've ever seen!
Like, that company, like, needs to start feeling itself more in that direction, because it needs, perception is reality, you know?
Yeah, so you have Mike and Don just, like, they're telling you, and, like, fair enough, you should only do it after you've earned it. You, like, when you have that Styles and Joe match, you can then take your victory lap immediately after.
Yeah. If you have Sabre Danielson, you can have your victory lap.
Yes, pat yourself the back more. Like, as you said, perception is reality. People will believe it. People will often believe it even when it's not true. So when it is true, you should be taking your victory lap. Fuck Jarrett Rhino, let's do Barbed Wire Massacre.
Fuck yeah, let's go. We'll do it in order of the vote.
Oh yeah, because actually Styles and Joe finished third, so
yes, and that we'll leave it last, and we'll talk about the other stuff.
We've already fucked it. But November 19th, Impact.
Yes, that is the date.
Tenay and West mentioned that Abyss and Sabu will face off in Barbed Wire Massacre. I think it was announced immediately after the Turning Point, or the Genesis match, that they will rematch again in Barbed Wire Massacre, which I kind of do like how they often do that. They're just like, here's our next pay-per-view matches, immediately. Now we're going to start building them.
I do like that. Like, I get the idea of naturally progressing the story to the point where you announce a match. But, like, just blanket statement going, boom, this is happening, boom, this is happening, boom, this is happening, can also be really interesting. Sometimes it doesn't work, like with Rhino Jarrett, where you're like, they just boom announced it and then they can build to a different match the whole month.
Which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, but that's execution, not the idea's fault.
Yeah, so on that same show, the main event is Rhino versus Abyss.
I mean, I was watching this and I was like, damn, Rhino's going to get jobbed out.
It is funny. Abyss actually loses for most of the month. I don't think it ultimately matters, but Abyss does lose all his matches this month.
He's a little Teflon at this point, it feels.
JB fails to pronounce contest as Abyss is making his entrance for this match.
Poor JB.
Calling him out. Mike Tenay, which he does multiple times this month, starts going on about how, like, unlike some other companies who have promised barbed wire matches and then didn't even use the barbed wire, we will be using barbed wire at Barbed Wire Massacre.
Heavy shot at AEW.
Yeah, who is that a shot at, though? I still don't even know.
Well, like, they were saying it about WCW with the first time they did barbed wire.
Yeah, they were talking about how they would use fake barbed wire, and we're like, no, fucking real barbed wire.
So I'm guessing that's what they were referring to.
Still going back to that. I don't remember WCW ever advertising a barbed wire match, though.
Well, he mentioned it.
Maybe they did. Or maybe it's someone else. I don't know.
Talking about CZW.
Those pussies over in CZW. Mitchell looks to attack Rhino with his cane. Rhino teases goring him, which allows the bitch to crotch him on the post.
A bitch?
That would be a good... how has nobody used that as a burn on Abyss? More like a bitch, am I right? That seems like something Christian will say in 2006.
Christian Cage.
Yeah. Rhino pulls a table from under the ring and sets it up in the corner. Rhino goes for the gore, but Abyss moves. Rhino crashes through the table. Abyss then takes Rhino up for the shock treatment. Lights out. Sabu with his barbed wire chair. This distraction allowed Rhino to hit the gore and win.
Which I actually thought was a pretty good finish for, like, getting out of Abyss losing.
Yeah, you can always hit the lights and Sabu will show up, and I appreciate, like, it's a distraction finish, so but at least it does play into the story in that, like, he was just as much afraid of the fact that Sabu had barbed wire as he was the fact that Sabu was there, which is the running story through the month. December 26th Impact, Jeff Hardy faces Abyss.
I do not remember a single second of this.
They basically did the exact same finish.
Great.
They replayed the Hardy Swanton from Bound for Glory a bunch.
Bet they wish Abyss just went over, huh?
So the finish, lights out, Sabu! Hardy uses a chair a couple times without being DQ'd and hits a twist of fate to win.
It is just the same finish.
Literally identical, but the reinforcing the same story beat.
I suppose it is all building up to a tremendous bit at the pay-per-view, so I can accept it.
And also, like, the next week, we are building up to, like, a little story development in the next week, because Abyss faces the debuting Kenny King.
K-I-N-G King. Future Digital and X Division champion.
Yeah, TNA legend. Debuting here on the December 3rd episode of Impact.
I would definitely call him a TNA legend.
Abyss did his big press slam, you know, the one where he just throws the guy in the air and he comes back down, but Kenny King turned in the air and took, like, a back bump.
Again, Abyss and Rhino killing people. And Monty. It is the formula, and it does work.
Abyss wins with the Black Hole Slam. After the match, Mitchell grabs a microphone. He calls Sabu a subliterate monkey, which is a little rude. Lights out, Sabu. Abyss boots the barbed wire chair out of Sabu's hands, and then they brawl around the building, including a man that had a cardboard box on his head. I assume it's a young Kip Sabian.
Yeah, of course.
Like, no one acknowledged Cardboard Box Man. They just brawled out of the building past him. It's like...
Well, they didn't acknowledge Kip Sabian for like a year and a half, so...
It's true. It's the start of that long-term story.
Exactly.
Mitchell asks Abyss to use the barbed wire chair, and then he does before he chokeslams Sabu on a pile of rails backstage.
It's just awesome.
So the little story development there being that Abyss has finally earned his gumption to use the barbed wire. He's had sufficient therapy to use the barbed wire.
They've gotten past it.
And the closing angle of the Go Home show is one of my favorite little things. So, December 8th Impact Primetime Special. Abyss and Mitchell are in the ring. Mitchell talks about how if the barbed wire opens an artery, then you're dead. You're going to bleed out on the mat and die.
He's not wrong.
He isn't. And then lights out, Sabu, but not just Sabu. When the lights come back on, all the ropes are replaced by barbed wire, which is a fucking awesome visual.
Yeah, it's an awesome visual, even if it's a little dumb.
But it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's fine. I give it a pass.
It's so funny that the work that went into what was ultimately like a 10-second shot, where it's like, I presume they did this segment, lights out, Sabu shows up, runs them off, and then did another one, lights out, where they set up the barbed wire, and then lights out, Sabu shows up with the barbed wire, something like that, and then stitch them together, so that nobody knew what they were shooting when they shot it. But
shout out to my man on Twitter who was like, how did they do that?
Yeah, they actually very, very quickly, they actually had barbed wire within the ropes, and they pulled the ropes away to reveal the barbed wire while the lights were out.
That's how I choose to believe.
Little do people know, when you actually go inside of a wrestling ring rope, There's barbed wire there. It's not very safe. I don't know why they do it.
It feels like something that Excalibur should mention.
Yeah, it's sometimes they're like, oh, they're cables, which means hitting them it hurts more. And then other times they're like, actually, you know what? Barbed wire in there. So when they can be multi-purpose, they can keep out animals in the days they're not being used for wrestling.
I mean, I've seen backyard wrestling rings that have had literal wire for the ropes. So.
I like, listen, you can be like, it's hokey nonsense, but also I think it's cool. It looks really cool.
I can forgive it even if I think it's a little hokey.
That brings us to the pay-per-view, the opening match. Abyss versus Sabu in Barbed Wire Massacre. So there's no ropes. The ropes have been replaced by barbed wire. There are barbed wire items at ringside.
It's the tits. I mean, it's the fucking tits. It rules, and it's awesome, and it's sick, and everyone should watch it. We got 4.5 on this. This pay-per-view's insane. We had a 4 3/4 and a 4.5 star match. We were talking about the best singles matches in TNA history. This is also in like the top 5.
Yeah, I'm told there's a better one literally like 7 matches later.
It's crazy. Like, the consistency that this combination has is insane.
Because they're just, like, this is a barbed wire match. And you'd be like, alright, the barbed wire is bad enough. Like, the nastiest part of this match is probably when Sabu just starts stabbing Abyss in the arm with a spike.
He goes too far. And you can see Abyss go, fucking stop.
If you ever look at Abyss's left arm in particular, you'll see scars. And it's not from the barbed wire, it's from that moment where he fucking stabbed the shit out of him with a spike.
Yeah. I love that Abyss is like, even Abyss like broke from him, was like, fucking man.
Dude, stop it.
I like that we see Shooter Sabu as his pants are ripped and you just see black tights and no knee pads and boots.
Yeah, that's where he starts taking down Abyss and keeping him in the middle of the ring to stay away from the barbed wire.
Yeah, I look forward to Sabu and Thatcher in Noah at some point.
It's like when Liger's mask is torn, he turns into Kishin Liger. When Sabu's pants are torn,
Shooter Sabu.
He turns into Shooter Sabu.
That's great.
It has all the barbed wire spots you'd expect. Like there's a drop toe hold into the barbed wire. There's a front suplex into the barbed wire. There's like Sabu goes for like a bicycle kick off of a chair into the barbed wire.
There's some like stupid ass spots in this, and it's awesome.
Abyss press slams Sabu onto the barbed wire board. And then the finish is Abyss sets Sabu up back to a barbed wire board in the corner and goes for his big like charge. And Sabu steps out of the way. Abyss runs face first into the barbed wire, and then Sabu boots him onto another barbed wire board so that he has barbed wire boards on both sides of him. And then Sabu hits a little senton on Abyss's head region and pins him.
What a finish too. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's something little, but it feels like it's the culmination of the entire match.
Because it is the truth. It's like, what do you do as a finish in this kind of match that also incorporates the barbed wire? And the answer is trap him either side of a barbed wire board and jump at his head.
Yeah,
I do like that. Like they have to sit in the aftermath of this because they have to spend time taking the ropes down,
which actually helps it.
Yeah, but they really, because they'd have to spend like 10 minutes like really sitting in the aftermath as you see Abyss is being cut out. The crowd start chanting Abyss and start chanting thank you, and Mitchell is like shouting, "You conquered your fear, you conquered your fear," as he like overcame his fear of barbed wire. So like Abyss lost the match, and it's one of those things. It's like it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. And Abyss did not lose a single solitary thing through losing this match. In fact, he probably gained quite a lot from losing this match.
Exactly. Like Abyss has come out of this looking better so far.
Dave Meltzer gave it 2.5 stars.
Fucking dumb idiot. Stupid guy. Doesn't know anything about wrestling.
Like, he does say it's not his cup of tea, but they did an effective match. But fuck off with your 2.5 stars.
Yeah, this rocks. They've all been good.
A great rivalry. And a real everyone remembers the Barbed Wire Massacre because, well, it's great. But, like, the Unbreakable and Genesis matches are awesome as well. And then you get the Monsters Ball at Bound for Glory with Hardy and Rhino thrown in as well. It's a real cool little feud here through the end of 2005.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, underserved feud that maybe doesn't get its recognition, which is what we've said about the other matches so far, too.
And they do show a little backstage segment later of Abyss being stitched up.
Brutal.
There's some even worse footage.
It's really gross.
If you have the Turning Point DVD, there is some...
I do, that's how I watched this.
Yeah, there is some like even more gruesome footage. Like the one on the pay-per-view was alright, but they actually show him actually being stitched up in the DVD extras, and it's like, oh god. Oh.
Brutal.
And Mitchell is like hyping him up, and he actually gives him a hug, which is like, it's in theory really out of character, but I think it really works for that moment. It's like, oh, like he actually gave him a hug.
You can also read it as manipulation if you really want
It's
to.
like, yeah, you lost and you got fucked up in barbed wire, but I'm still your friend, right? Hug?
Yeah, you need me. Look at how I'm here to support you.
But in that moment, it felt like a nice little moment.
I have now switched to just having the WSW show on the second monitor, and I've gone from Dusty Rhodes and Bruiser Brody having like a brutal match to Matt Cardona and Eric Young having the most house show affair I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you gotta bring him down to get him back up, or whatever that thing is that you can work ahead.
We're on like the third mid-match promo.
That's very Matt Cardona.
Where they have the mic. It's not even just talking, it's like full mic work. That being said, I want to put over Eric Young. Still has great gear.
Yeah, Eric Young's still great in general.
Yeah. I mean, like, he's good in this, but it's a house show match that I would rather die than watch live.
Fuck Jarrett and Rhino, let's do Christian and Monty.
Yeah!
November 19th Impact. If I remember, Christian debuted. He turned down the Team Canada offer. He is now at odds with Planet Jarrett, so he makes his Impact debut in the main event segment of that November 19 Impact, where he comes out and he does like a kind of version of... He is literally like, for those of you who may not have seen the pay-per-view, allow me to retort.
Let me reiterate, I made this choice.
He gets all his talking points out. He does say retort instead of recap. Like, I don't think he knows what retort means.
Maybe he's responding to something someone said.
He doesn't. He just says the same things he said before.
Damn. You should tell him to fuck off. Can we talk about that for a moment?
A great segment.
Can we talk about how Christian Cage is like the best character in pro wrestling in 2023?
Because he's just a heel who's actually a heel.
Yeah. He's a heel who doesn't want to be cheered.
And it does everything not to be cheered.
He should be world champion.
Honestly. I'm so glad they actually put the actual TNT title on him, because he should be champion, and a champion all the time.
Yeah. Which is... Okay, I know it's odd. I could save this for the Title Tuesday thing. But, fuck you. It's my show too. So Danielson's beating Swerve. Because you're not going to do Swerve Christian. Because, you're not turning Christian, and maybe they're turning Swerve? That seems weird. What are they doing, Garrett? Make your prediction.
I think Ed screws Christian out of the match with Danielson.
Danielson TNT champ?
Yeah, then that would make sense.
Then he's weekly matches, dream match series will have some stakes behind it.
Yeah, you can do the open challenge, which is their favorite game.
Which, honestly, Danielson doing an open challenge kind of based. I'm not gonna get mad at that. Just taking on random guys from fucking Mexico and Japan.
Also, I'm just very pleased at the idea of getting a Danielson Christian match in general.
Yeah, again, awesome. I also we're finally gonna get Ishii and Danielson.
We better
for the TNT title and in Dynamite.
And Tom wins.
It's gonna do 500,000 viewers, but I'm gonna fucking love it. Give it 10 stars.
So Christian does the same version of the promo. Basically, he's here to get the respect he deserves. He's here to win the NWA title, and he doesn't care if the boys in the back have a problem with that. One boy in the back does, the alpha male Monty Brown.
The idea of calling the alpha male a boy. Oh, this little fella.
The alpha boy, Monty Brown.
The alpha boy.
Feels very different, doesn't it?
The Astro Boy, Monty Brown.
The Astro Bot.
Wow. I was watching, I was doing, the Twitter gimmick that was, put your birth year when you're 10 or whatever the fuck, and, wrestling, and then see what GIF comes up. Let it be known. Monty Brown GIF.
You would have been 10. Oh, it would have been an ECW GIF? Mm-hmm. So it's a Marcus Corvon GIF?
Nitpick. I was very excited, okay?
Good. I would have been 10 and 02. I probably wouldn't get a TNA GIF.
Do it. Just see what happens.
What do? You open Giphy?
GIF, and then you just write, year WWE or year... I wrote year wrestling. That's how I got it.
2002. Oh, I just typed 2002 and I got a Kurt Angle ankle-locking Rey Mysterio GIF anyway, so...
There you go.
There you go. SummerSlam 02 is the defining moment of my 10 years on Earth.
What if I just write 2007? What comes up? It's a Portal meme.
This is a triumph.
Do.
Great song. So yeah, Monty comes out. He makes a big screeching noise. He's like, "Arr!" And then tells Christian to hit the brakes.
I like it. Good stuff.
Then suggests that the quantity of speech, Liam, is not always indicative of the quality of thought.
Which makes a lot of sense when it's Monty Brown talking.
Monty is very, very pithy. He's known for his short, impactful promos, and not his long-winded ones that are overly wordy.
But like, that's self-awareness. Garrett, big update. Eric Young has defeated Matt Cardona.
Hell yeah.
It is non-title because Matt Cardona lost the WSW World title to Sean Spears last night.
Oh, 10.
That could be a new Team Canada.
Sean Spears and Eric Young?
Yeah.
I think you could do a better Team Canada than that, personally.
Oh, the chairman.
Monty says Christian is not one to give fashion advice because of his Bob the Builder boots.
And he called him out for the Labor Day comment.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you and your fashion advice, Bob the Build. This will not be the last we'll hear of Bob the Builder this month.
Hell yeah. I appreciate Bob the Builder being a talking point in 2005 TNA.
Can he fix it?
Yes, he can.
Whoa. Is he Obama?
Yes.
Whoa! Monty was wearing a tremendous shiny shirt himself, so he could give out about fashion. He's a fashionable man. That's one thing he can strike people down on. He wore that awesome yellow turtleneck that time.
Mm-hmm. This is his best look, probably.
Monty lays down for no man. Monty's about to hit the pounce period line, but then Christian cuts him off before he can say period. Mike Tenay's like, he didn't let him say pounce, let alone period. Christian then suggests there was something erotic about Monty liking to pounce men, which does prompt the crowd chanting Monty's gay. So a little homophobia here in 2005 TNA. It's good
comedy.
They brawl, but Christian makes the mistake of whipping Monty toward the ropes. He gets reversed and then he gets his ass pounced on his Impact debut.
Hell yeah. Again, Christian being one of these guys that actually knows how to do things, making Monty look strong in that first night.
And knowing he'll be fine, but it's important, like, he's beating Monty, so he needs Monty to look good in the month building up to it. November 26th Impact, Monty Brown squashes Helvis. Crowd chant, we want Christian, hits the pounce for the win. That's the Morphoplex move of the night, which multiple times this month. The Morphoplex move of the night is in the first match, and I'm like, how did you not know there would be a better move later in the night?
Because they paid to be mentioned in the first segment.
When probably the most people are watching it because they're paying $200,000.
Yeah.
Tenay then did hit the line, Helvis has left the building.
It's a great line.
Well done, Mike.
That might be my Morphoplex comment of the month.
Does that get it added to the intro?
Yes. Can you put that like after the full intro? So like it's the whole thing, and then it just goes, Helvis has left the building.
Sure.
And then it cuts to us.
Franchise has Christian later in the show. Christian isn't going to run for Monty. In fact, he asked for a match against Monty Brown at Turning Point. He's hunting the Serengeti at Turning Point.
He's hunting a land mass.
Yeah, it's a very large land mass as well. He might not be able to find what he's looking for.
You know, if this feud was happening during like COVID, it definitely would have done a cinematic match.
Oh, where he actually goes hunting for Monty Brown?
Yeah.
I think Christian and Monty would have made that work.
Christian and Monty could make that work.
Yeah. So Gail comes up and says Christian aligned himself with the wrong people. AMW also walk up. They say he's not getting anywhere near the title, as they pumped in, like, they didn't do this for any other promo except this one, but they pumped in a weird amount of fake boos and cheers here for everything Christian and AMW said, and they like response boos where like Storm would say something and they're like boo. It's very weird.
A lot of weird stuff going on.
It did feel like the kind of thing they were trying out for 1 week and they were like, nah, that's stupid. December 3rd Impact, we bizarrely get a segment that revolves around Jeff Jarrett and Christian during a month when neither man are wrestling each other.
I don't get it. Well, should we do the Rhino Jarrett stuff at the same time?
No. Fuck them.
You don't want to just... It's like 4 things. Just run through it.
Absolutely not. We'll finish Christian first. We'll talk about the Jarrett Jackie... I don't even want to talk about the Jackie Gata stuff.
Christian and Jarrett talk to each other. We'll talk about it later. Get to the match.
Yeah, they did basically the segment you would expect these two to do as like their first face-off segment.
We can get into detail with the other one. It's more of a Jarrett thing than it is a Christian thing.
That's true. Then go home show of the primetime special is
just a weird... I mean, like, it makes sense because Bobby Roode and Christian had the moment, but it's like, I thought this was going to be the pay-per-view match.
Yeah, Christian against Bobby Roode. It was like, it makes an amount of sense that, like, obviously he turned his back on Team Canada at the pay-per-view, so he'd wrestle a Team Canada guy at the next pay-per-view. But I guess they wanted to start him against like an upper mid-card active, which Bobby Roode is not. So and Monty is. So that's probably why they chose Monty over Bobby Roode.
Fair enough. And it's a good TV main.
Yeah, this is Christian's first TV match. It's the main event of their Thursday primetime special as well. Christian's first TV match, so that's a decent hook for that. And the match was fine. It was a perfectly fine TV match.
Yeah. It was a professionally worked professional wrestling match.
The ref was bumped. Christian got a visual pin on a reverse DDT. Monty runs out and jumps Christian. Monty goes for the pounce, but Christian ducks and Monty pounces Scott D'Amore instead. Christian crotches Rude with the hockey stick and then falls with the Unprettier for the win. But then Monty pounces Christian once again after the match.
Again, Christian giving Monty the shine heading into the match.
Which does bring us to the turning point in which Christian does defeat Monty Brown.
It's a solid match.
Yeah, earlier in the show, Monty does a promo where he's talking to a Bob the Builder plushie.
I didn't know Bob the Builder was so big in the US.
I guess 2005, I suppose so. Because like that song like charted in the UK.
I mean, like it was huge here.
So yeah, and it's the usual stuff. I will not be leapfrog, you will feel the pounds, and there's some Jarrett stuff that we'll talk about in a minute. But the match itself, Christian and Monty, a good, professionally worked match. Christian bumps his ass off, to be fair. He does bump all over the place for a guy like Monty. He really wants to make Monty feel decent even though he's losing. Hits a big crossbody from the top to the floor. He also hit a frog splash, which I believe he starts incorporating into his offense only now after the death of Eddie.
You saw that busted out at the Great Derby match too.
Oh, and yeah, to the floor onto the stretcher. That match was so good.
Yes, it's nice to see Christian deliver too, because like he's a great character, but like sometimes the matches can be kind of dull, and like that was one of those affairs where it was like all the right smokes and mirrors, and made it into sort of the chaotic mess that you'd hope for it to be.
So Christian hit that frog splash, but then Monty kicked out, but he kicked out strong enough that sent Christian onto Rudy. Monty hit the alpha bomb, but because Rudy was slow to get into position, Christian kicked out. So it wasn't quite a visual pin, but the implication was he might have gotten 3 if Rudy wasn't bumped briefly. Christian hit the Unprettier for the win. Christian beats Monty Brown. Sets himself on a path toward Jeff Jarrett. Or Rhino. Who could win that main event? Nobody knows.
Christian Rhino next pay-per-view.
I also want to keep doing the bit of fuck Jarrett Rhino, but I guess we have to do Jarrett Rhino.
Nah, I reckon we talk about Raven and Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah, Raven Larry time. Everyone's favorite angle.
There you go, let's talk about it. I've marked it off on red, we have to.
November 19th, Jarrett is in Larry's office. Jarrett thought they had a deal done. Larry booked Jarrett against Rhino for the pay-per-view. I like the way we're talking about it, but the point is, the way this ties into Raven is like my favorite little thing where Jarrett's like, what about Raven's rematch? He didn't get his rematch.
I like how it's not, Raven should have this match. It's, we should not be giving people rematches.
Yeah, it's like, are you giving Rhino a rematch? You didn't give Raven a rematch. What about Monty? He never got another match.
Exactly. But like, I like that it's kind of a perfect excuse for Jarrett to make, because there's no way in hell that Larry Zbyszko is going to be like, yeah, you're right, let's give Raven the match.
Because he hates Raven.
So technically he can get away with making that point in this like one particular circumstance.
There is like a percentage more goofery to just Jarrett reign that I do appreciate.
It's infinitely better than the last one.
Like this kind of stuff where like it's good heel stuff to be booked in a rematch against Rhino, and you're like, well, what about Raven?
Plus, it's funny because it's the catchphrase.
Yeah. So then November 26th Impact, Raven and Larry have a feature. Larry then has a new release for Raven to sign. Raven refuses, so Larry books him in a House of Fun match next week against unnamed opponents.
I love that match.
So it's the main event of the December 3rd Impact. It is Raven versus all 3 of the Diamonds in the Rough in a House of Fun match.
I love this match. It's just dumb, stupid shit. And I love that Larry is still trying to get the man to just leave. Like, he's tried like 7 times now.
Yeah, because at the start of the match, he offers Raven a chance to sign his release again. Raven's like,
again,
I'll only do it if I can sign it in your blood.
Which is a great line.
Larry snipes about his girlfriend, and then Raven lunges at Larry again. Then Larry introduces all of the Diamonds in the Rough as Raven's opponents.
Which is like, you see that and you kind of think that Raven's just going to win. And then he doesn't.
Yeah, he gets beaten by the Diamonds in the Rough. They're really on a run of form here at the moment, until the pay-per-view.
Well, because, they're building up to the big pay-per-view match.
They set Raven up on crutches so that he's standing up, so that Skipper can dropkick a trash can into his head.
Awesome.
They pull him up on a pin, and then Larry gets the release again and says, sign the release and then they'll pin you or whatever. Then they cut Raven open with a stapler. Cassidy Riley tries to make the save but gets shut down, and Larry once again demands sign the release. Raven refuses, so they throw him through a table on the floor and pin him.
Good stuff. You were low on this.
I thought it was a fine little plunder match, but not the special.
I just thought it was like a good change of pace from the TV main events.
You're back on the Raven train after months being off the Raven train.
I think I'm just like against his booking more than I am against Raven.
Primetime special, December 8th. Larry is begging Raven to sign.
He's gone from demanding to just like, please.
Raven's like, give me a title match. It's like, you can't get a title match. You lost last week. Losers don't get title matches.
Be career best title.
Larry has another mystery opponent for Raven at Turning Point. And that mystery opponent is who better than Canyon?
Who better than K?
Yeah, Chris K. Apparently there's like a whole thing that like he was like, maybe you can use Canyon, but then they're like, no, we don't think we can. So you're Chris K, because his shoot name begins with K. So I guess that's how they can get away with it. That he is in fact Chris K.
They should have made it Chris with a K.
It's call forward to Caleb with a K.
Ooh. No, I just meant like the actual word Chris. But yeah, that's great.
Chris with a K and Caleb with a K is the continuity in TNA history. There was the same deal as always. Larry's like, sign. Raven is like, no. Raven is like, you're a game show answer to a question nobody has ever asked, which is like a great burn.
The Raven's one-liners are kind of still like heat.
Yeah. The match, it's fine. Canyon bumps a lot.
It's a good little match.
Yeah, it's a nice little like 7-minute match where Canyon is very clearly like working for a job. This is his only TNA match, I think. But obviously doesn't get one.
He would have been fun in the X Division as a guy who like innovated a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, the kind of guy you just throw into the scrambles and into the wacky matches.
Yeah, a guy for like an Aries or a Shelley to beat.
And like obviously these two have history going back to the Flock, going back to WCW. So there's a little layer you have to add in.
Obviously,
you and your love of WCW.
I wish it was Kidman. Now that I'm seeing that Kidman was like talked about, that'd be fun.
Yeah, because apparently Canyon was offered to do it last month when Just Incredible did it, and he was like, "No, I want more money." And then they're like, "No."
Next month he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll take it.
I'll do it for fucking anything." But the alternative would have been Billy Kidman apparently. But Billy Kidman would have been cool.
Billy K.
Yeah, Canyon working super hard. Like he gets a knee lift and he takes like a full bump over the ropes for it, and then gets hip tossed down the ramp.
It is kind of surprising that he doesn't get like more dates. He was good here.
Raven powerbombs Canyon on a chair and falls with the Raven effect for the win. Larry comes back and demands Raven sign the release. Raven and Larry start brawling.
I'm reading this Kidman story and I don't understand it.
Yeah, there's something about him no-showing a show in Winnipeg and something about abandoning Tori Wilson in Australia, but I don't know the context of what Dave is saying, so
it's like it's written so poorly.
It's the classic, one, he doesn't explain what he means. I assume it's in older observers, I didn't look it up. And two, as you said, it's written in Dave, so it's so impossible to parse.
I believe the other alternative was to debut Billy Kidman, but Kidman is another one of those guys on the you can't trust him to show up list after blowing Winnipeg and causing Tori Wilson to rush home from Australia, so who knows. Canyon told TNA that they could just use his name, but went asked to change the spelling to Canyon just in case. Yeah, that sentence is horrific.
The man needs an editor.
To this day! Did you see the fucking Hall of Fame list?
Which one?
The one they announced the Hall of Fame candidates, and Rick and Scott Stein. I was like, no one proofread it.
It's only the most influential publication in wrestling. It's fine. No one needs to proofread it.
Like, pay an editor.
I think he does have an editor.
Get a new one.
All right, we'll finally do Jarrett Rhino.
No, we're committing to the bit at this point.
All right, 3D AMW then.
Yep, and then we're going to Aries and Bentley.
We can't close on Jarrett Rhino. There is a rule.
Jarrett Rhino and then 4LK Drama.
Okay.
Team 3D weren't here for most of the month because they were in Old Japan.
November 19th, AMW faced Sonny Siaki and Apollo.
I never wanted to die more than in this match.
Well, this is the last time you will ever watch Sonny Siaki. Do a remember when, please.
Oh, God. Do you remember when Sonny Siaki sex?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
He was in Sports Entertainment Extreme. He was an extremely attractive man, which is the thing he mostly has going for him.
I don't even think he's like hot.
Wow.
TBH.
Way to take away the one thing Sonny Siaki actually has.
Do you remember when Flying Elvises?
Probably the best thing he did, honestly.
Yeah. Do you remember when his wife...
Yeah, the Desire program.
Yeah.
Broke her back and then came back and had one match and disappeared again. Do you remember when he was owned by Goldilocks?
I do. He's but who isn't, to be fair? I'm going through every Sonny Siaki match. There's so many.
He was ex-champ.
He was. Do you remember Sonny Siaki versus the Sandman?
No.
Pay-per-view main event.
Whoa.
Do you remember Vampire Warrior versus Sonny Siaki?
I do remember that one.
Do you remember the second Sonny Siaki versus the Sandman match?
I remember the first.
Do you remember Sonny Siaki and ECMO?
Oh yeah, they're a little team they had going for them. Probably like the one of the bigger missed opportunities. There was something there.
Sure.
They had that cool press slam into a cutter, which ended up being Yuya Uemura's and Joe Hendry's finish. I wonder where they big Sonny Siaki.
They've been watching their tapes. Yeah. Do you remember Simon Diamond?
No, he's still around.
You teamed up with him before he became Irish Pat Kenny.
When both had nothing to do.
Yeah. It's just so many Pat Kenny and Sonny Siaki versus Swinger and Gilberti matches. Do you remember when he feuded with Abyss?
I don't think he feuded with Abyss. I think he had a lot of TV matches with Abyss that he lost.
I think it was during the Goldilocks thing, though. Do you remember when he teamed with Johnny B. Bad?
During Johnny B. Bad's wonderful TNA run that you loved?
Do you remember when he fucked off?
That's right now.
Yeah, good.
Follow went for a slingshot crossbody, but Storm smashed him with a bottle midair. Then handcuffs punched by Harris to Siaki, followed by a death sentence, put Siaki away.
I guess the biggest thing about Siaki, and we've said it before, but it's his goodbye, so we can say it again. Just a guy who was probably miscast most of his career.
As he should have been a power junior instead of like a nerd heavyweight.
Because he showed signs of that whenever he got to interact with those guys specifically.
Yeah, if you ever want to see like the best case for what Sonny Siaki could have been, watch the Victory Road 2004 Gauntlet, where when he comes out, he has a minute of just throwing around X Division guys, and you're like, holy shit, there's something there.
And he also had that like multi-man in the asylum, where he was just like throwing lariats and fucking looking like Shingo.
Yeah, so there's like because he gets signed to a W developmental deal here, so like he is moving in theory up in the world. Lord knows what I know what they see with him. Look at him, but yeah,
again,
nothing for cocky Siaki. But yeah, that's the end of Sonny Siaki.
His best run was probably the Desire run.
Honestly, he's the guy who's like, I was never like super hot in Siaki, but I did have like that little thought as like there was more for Siaki there in the back of my head. And after watching 3 years of Siaki, I don't really think that anymore.
No, a realization has dawned upon us.
He is a mid-card jag, and that's how he was booked his entire run, and that frankly is probably his level.
Shoutouts to ABC versus the Velocities. I was looking at it at the corner of my eye, looked fucking sweet.
Too sweet, some might say.
They were doing a ton of shit.
Hell yeah.
As one may expect. Ace Austin, great look on it.
Yeah, great gear. I was thinking of that was when I was watching the country whipping match, or the Fans Revenge even from Impact this week.
They got all black gear now?
Yeah, it looked great.
It looks amazing. You know who he looks like?
Who?
He looks like jacked Devitt. Even more jacked Devitt.
That literally was the thought I had as I was watching Impact this week, because they wear that gear in the match against John Skyler and Jay Vidal. I was like,
Garrett, I'm so sorry. We're showing respect right now. We're shaking hands because we just had such a great match together.
Boo! Punch each other.
I'm so sorry. Your boys have betrayed you. Imagine AMW versus ABC.
They would have a great match.
They would have an awesome match.
We get some AMW against Sanjay and Sabin coming up that I'm looking forward to revisiting.
Similar essence.
So AMW set up a table in the corner and spray paint 3D on it. They paint the 3, and then Don was like, astutely observes, it's not A, B, or C next.
Oh my god!
Ties it all together.
They're calling out the ABC.
They do spray paint the D, then they go to death sentence Siaki through the table with 3D make the save, and AMW bail. Bubba says that AMW know nothing about using a table, so he's talked to Larry Z. I think they know something about using a table. I think we've all used tables to some extent in our life.
Also, like, they're like mean brawler guys. They can probably work it out.
Yeah.
In a pro wrestling context.
I think they put people through tables before.
Is WSW just an Impact show?
They do have a lot of Impact guys.
As Kazarian is now coming out.
He's talked to Larry Z, and it'll be AMW versus Team 3D in a tables match at Turning Point, and then they throw the table at... They like pick it up and launch it up the ramp at AMW.
It's a good... It's like they're like, we got a gift for you. I was like, goddamn.
Just hurl it.
AMW should have protested and said we should have a handcuff match. Why did they get their favorite weapon and we don't?
Or beer bottle.
Beer bottle match, yeah. They've done that, haven't they?
They have put beer bottles on poles.
Yeah. The beer bottle is, like, maybe the most perfect pro wrestling weapon. Like, it's visually distinct, it's big, it looks brutal, it's safe as fucking houses.
Yeah, like, the bump Apollo took where he's, like, slingshot crossboding over the ropes and Storm just hits him in the head with a beer bottle. It's so good.
I wonder if, like, Storm did that for, like, had the idea for that for the first time, was like, I've made it. I've got the rest of my career right now.
Also, I do appreciate, like, early in the beer bottle run, I think part of the reason they did the beer bottle like that is because you do it on the outside, the evidence is, like, already gone. Which they care less about later, about, like, why is there glass all over the ring?
Yeah. I always like what they did last month where they were like, it could have been a fan. You don't know that a fan didn't just throw that in the ring.
No proof. December 3rd, Impact AMW are with Terry Taylor. Harris pulls Terry down on the chair next to him and makes a cracking noise, and he's like, what the fuck, you're breaking a furniture, Terry.
You gotta save that for the paint.
They know how to break chairs, not tables.
Exactly.
They're reliving the Team 3D funeral. They're watching it on a monitor. And they're like, T3 used to be the best, but now AMW are, and they're going to beat Team 3 at their own game. T3 invented the tables match, but AMW are going to perfect it. And then TNA later notes that 3D aren't there because they're currently wrestling in the Real World Tag League in All Japan, where they beat Akibono and Keiji Muto in the final to win the tournament.
What a team.
There was an issue this past week involving Team 3D. They were scheduled to be a major part of the tapings leading into Turning Point. However, the booking committee did not get word until the day before that they were in Japan for the Real World Tag League. There was a major miscommunication on the issue. They went to Japan and worked the All Japan event, as well as the Cork and Hall the next day. And then Team 3D was said to be told by TNA officials that they were needed for the taping, but given a date of November 22nd. So they left Japan, flew back to America, where there was nobody there at Universal, and then flew back to Japan.
That must be the most annoying thing, to fly all the way back to America, get there, realize there's nothing going on, and like, alright, guess I'm gonna get back on the plane.
One report not confirmed was that they actually went to Orlando and the building on November 22nd and found nobody there.
That's insane.
And then they were back in All Japan to finish up the tour.
And they did Sasaki and Nakajima.
It's a cool match. As you said, the idea of flying all the way there, getting to Universal Studios, and there just being nobody there is so funny.
Imagine how pissed you would be.
I would be fucking right. And then you have to get on a plane and just go back to Japan.
Yeah. So go deal with Muto.
Our opener of the primetime special, AMW and Jeff Jarrett defeated the Naturals and Jeff Hardy.
The Naturals and Jeff Hardy is a natural tag team, to be fair.
I thought that, I liked this match. It was like the classic.
It's like Jeff Hardy teaming with himself from 10 years earlier.
Yeah, and it's just a classic higher energy trios match. It's 8 minutes, guys doing spots. It's exactly what you want out of a TV opener.
And they write off Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, the last time we'll see Jeff Hardy until 2010, because AMW have a table for 3D that says reserved for 3D, but then they 3D Andy Douglas through it, so I'm like, it wasn't reserved for 3D, it was reserved for Andy Douglas.
Maybe it was reserved, but they weren't there, so they had to give the table away. It's restaurant rules.
That is how it works, yes.
You gotta put the next customer through the table.
My favorite part of this match is Jarrett's hair immediately turns green from the crowd brawling with
envy.
He does fear Jeff Hardy's charisma and connection to an audience.
Imagine how good Jeff Jarrett would be if he had Jeff Hardy's charisma.
His matches might be actually good and compelling. That brings us to Turning Point, in which AMW faced Team 3D in a tables match. Before the match, Team 3D did a promo with franchise being like, we won the Real World Tag League, we'll put AMW through a table, and Bully actually said the word Dudley in it, so he's probably going to copyright Joe.
I kind of love this match. It's goofy.
Because we did talk about how the Genesis match was kind of built around guys not going through tables.
Yeah, and so is this.
And they double down on it in sillier ways here.
But it should be. This is how a table match should be worked.
Yeah, it is basically the psychology of a tables match, where you're like, the rules of this one are both members of the team have to go through a table. So it's basically two tables.
If when we get funding and we get to run our shows, I will be doing a tables match where the rules are you can use as many tables as you want.
The classic tables are legal. Yes.
Tables are legal, which is the best version of the tables match.
Where you can do 15 tables bumps.
You're just going to find people crazy enough to do it.
Yeah. So as you said, this match is a little bit silly. One of the spots is AMW whips Devon toward the table, but then Bubba spears Devon to intercept him from going through the table. Bubba goes to superplex Harris through a table. Storm moves it. Storm tries to Frankenstein Bubba through a table. Devon moves it. Walks into a last call. 3D death sentence Storm through a table. Actually ends up giving Storm a stinger. He's stretchered out. And then 3D Harris at the top of the ramp through a table for the win. They do show Storm being helped out by security.
What a baby face.
Medics tended him after the match and helped him to the back, but the torch reports he suffered a neck stinger. It's not a great heated pay-per-view match or anything. It's not the best tables match you'll ever see. It's not the best match you'll ever see.
It's a good cooldown for what's about to happen immediately after it.
Yeah, I think this pay-per-view on the whole is pretty well darn paced, because you have the two big runaway hit matches.
This is probably in the top 5 of TNA pay-per-views so far.
Yeah, the one I was thinking about is probably Final Resolution, which had the AMW Team Canada match. It had the Ultimate X.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite.
And then I was thinking this might be number 2.
Yeah, it's better than Unbreakable. It's better than Sacrifice.
Yeah,
it's better than No Surrender. It's better than Slam. It's better than Hard Justice. Better than Lockdown.
It's definitely better than Destination X.
Which is maybe their worst show.
Yeah.
It's better than Against All Odds.
I think I'd put Final Resolution ahead of it. I think I might have it at number 2. Not to reveal our end of year awards, which will come with the January episode. But
it might be better than Final Resolution. But like they're on par with each other, and it peaks higher here.
I'd have to go back and look at the undercard of Final Resolution to be like,
there's some 1s and 3/4 in there, whereas this one is like 3.
Like everything other than the 2 big matches is like 3, 2, 5-ish.
Yeah, and like the 4 Life Crew thing was like breezy
and had a good angle for once.
Yeah, so like I don't know, it's a top of contender. Good, we're approaching the ending of the year.
Yeah, as I said, we'll have to do our end of year awards along with the January episode, so we have a few weeks of TV left.
This is and also how appropriate as we're approaching turning point in 2023.
Fuck Jarrett Rhino, let's do Aries and Bentley versus Shelley Strong.
Fuck yes, let's do it. Which is funny, like we're building this up and like that one's gonna be like 3 seconds long because it was all videos.
Yeah, so there was an X Division match on TV.
I just realized, this is the match where we're just going to talk about X Division on TV.
Yeah, there was a 4-way with Sabin, Shelley, PD, and Aries on the December 3rd episode. It was a nice little match.
Sure.
The most notable thing about the Shelley matches this month is, of course, we mentioned it earlier, Shelley has the Shelley cam now, so he's coming out with a tripod-mounted camera that he sets up at ringside to film the matches, which I kind of love to know, did that tape ever exist anywhere?
Ooh. Do you think they sprung to actually film it?
Yeah, it was probably just they set the camera up so they could film the preview screen.
Kayfabe's dead.
But yeah, this is the beginning of the Paparazzi Productions character. The probably one of Shelley's more beloved periods is particularly in this run. So we're heading into Paparazzi Productions, Alex Shelley, which is it's what like when Russo comes in, you see a lot of quote unquote characters forced on the X Division. You see like the Guru, Sanjay Dutt, and the Black Machismo, Jay Lethal, and the little PD Pump stuff, where they're trying to force characters on the X Division guys, as opposed to like the Paparazzi Production stuff was like much more organic and a much more like natural way to bring out Shelley's personality. Then
also like relevant.
Yeah, and like the true to who he was, because the idea here is that like the genesis of the character, the turning point of the character is that he does tape study. Yeah, he wants to study all the matches. He wants to like look at all his opponents. He wants to learn their moves. He wants the bird's eye view, so he sets up his own camera.
And it makes sense for him.
Don wanted Saban to step on PD's crotch as return for the O Canada, get some revenge for America. Shelley did the scissor stomp, which did prompt a "that was gay" chant. So a lot of homophobia in the Impact Zone this month.
I'm not. Yeah. Yeah.
Your classic finish of PD hits the Destroyer, but then gets caught in the Cradle Shock for the win. And the Cradle Shock is your Morphoplex move of the night. We can pay $200,000 by Morphoplex to actually mention this.
I fucking wish.
We've mentioned Morphoplex enough that they should be giving us money.
Let's contact them.
So that's kind of Saban getting his win back after he lost to AJ the week before. Which does bring us to the pay-per-view, in which there is just a pretty throwaway tag. It's Aries and Bentley against Shelley and Strong. It's a match that exists.
It's fun.
My favorite part of it is that Strong at one stage takes a bump to the floor and nearly hits the camera. Shelley sets up and he's like, whoa. Today mentions, I'm not sure if you heard this, that Matt Bentley is Shawn Michaels' cousin.
Since when?
Well, I knew Michael Shane was Shawn Michaels' cousin.
Yeah, exactly right. Because that makes sense, because it's his name backwards. That's how cousins work.
But now I've been told that Matt Bentley is too. So that's an interesting piece.
How many cousins does this guy have?
They're all wrestlers.
Matt Bentley and Michael Shane cousins?
Then no, I don't think they're related. I think it's a different
cousin once removed.
Different branch of the family, yeah. Crowd are Bentley bouncing, having a great time.
Of course.
Bentley pins Shelley with the head-on collision, so he's going to be wrestling Bryan Danielson any day.
For the TNT title.
Yeah, perfectly fine match. Nothing special.
It's just fun to see these guys popping up still.
That brings us to Basebrawl, a brand that GFW would still keep until like 2015.
All of this is lost on me, man.
Like it is very funny that like the very design of it, we'll talk about, there's some controversy about it, whether they should have done it, but like the very design by Mike Tenay, who apparently put a lot of this together, is that like a lot of people might not give a shit about the baseball stuff, so I'll get Bobby there so that everyone else will give a shit. And like that worked on me. It's like, I don't give a fuck about AJ Brzezinski. Bobby Heenan being here is cool.
I just thought it was weird.
So we mentioned on the December 3rd Impact, Bobby Heenan just shows up and says hello to Don West. He's here because the Chicago White Sox will be honored next week on Impact. So primetime special, there's a segment in the ring. Mike Tenay's in the ring with AJ Styles, Chris Sabin, and Sanjay Dutt. TNA says 2005 will be remembered for the year of Impact on Spike. It will be remembered for the X Division, and it will be remembered for the White Sox winning the World Series for the first time in 88 years. Bunch of fucking losers. 88 years?
I gotta watch Moneyball again.
Just learn about baseball.
Yeah, also that movie's awesome. And as we know, I am a sports movie guy, apparently.
I've never been a baseball guy.
I mean, who can be? It's so fucking boring.
I went to a Blue Jays game, the back end of a Blue Jays game once, so I've attended a baseball game. But yeah, it's just cricket, but worse.
And cricket sucks too.
So TNA introduces Bobby Heenan, Dale Torborg, the Demon, and AJ Przinsky.
I hope they called him the Demon in baseball.
He's only like a conditioning coach, isn't he? Like he wasn't a successful baseball player.
What the fuck? I assumed he won.
But yeah, I think he's the son of a baseball coach, Dale Torborg.
I'm sorry, I'm falling asleep.
And he kind of flopped as a young baseball player and then went into wrestling and became the Kiss Demon.
Where's Eric Watts?
That's true. What does he have to do with Kiss? Oh no, he had all the baseball friends. You're right.
Yeah, Eric Watts returning in the Basebrawl.
So they got a good reaction, but I think it was like 95% for Bobby and then 5% for the other two. They're all very happy. They present some bats and a jersey to the X Division guys. AJ is about to also present something to the baseball lads, but Simon Diamond interrupts and he's aghast that we're presenting awards to baseball people on this wrestling show.
Disgusting.
Simon Diamond is you.
Yes, exactly. I've often been compared.
Diamond points out that AJ Przinsky has hit 1 in 4, and like if one of my boys only won once in 4, I'd get rid of them.
It's an amazing bit.
Yeah, and then there's a little brawl, and that sets up a 6-man tag team match at the pay-per-view, which will be Dale Torborg, Chris Sabin, and Sanjay Dutt against the Diamonds on the Rock.
Amazing.
Obviously, the aim of this is always to get on SportsCenter. It's always to get some local publicity or national press, and it seems to have succeeded to a relatively decent extent here, where they got publicity in USA Today, they got publicity in like local Chicago newspapers and the White Sox website, and even on some CNN stuff. So.
And AJ would talk about them on the interviews.
Yeah, they even did like a media tour. You're right, yeah, where Torborg and Przinsky did like an actual media tour to promote their pay-per-view appearance. So they seem to get some like decent play out of it. Like even Przinsky said, I've always thought pro wrestling was amazing. When they approached me with this opportunity, it was hard to say no. Being on Oprah was about as good as it gets, but this is right up here. So it's like, it's as good as Oprah.
Przinsky famous?
Rich likes him. So
alright. We're definitely the two qualified to talk about this.
Like he was on the team that won the World Series for the first time in 88 years, so that does elevate you a little bit.
But like Hall of Fame guy or just guy?
Well, Simon Diamond says he only hit 1 in 4, so I think thumbs down for the Hall of Fame case based on the one fact I have from Simon Diamond.
I'm gonna go to Wikipedia and see if he did anything horrific.
No, has he been cancelled? That's always an important point. You're not wrong.
Do you know about batting averages?
That's what we're talking about.
Oh, like in general, I got like a career.
No.
A .280.
Oh, so that's probably slightly better than .25. So Simon Diamond ever so slightly lied to me.
This dude's been on like 25 teams.
Yeah, people generally become like journeymen and just go around.
He's a 2-time All-Star, a World Series champion, and a Silver Slugger award.
I love my sluggers.
Personal life. Oh, married to 2 kids. Oh, he's on a Raw.
Boo! Traitor.
He replaced Chris Jericho. Oh, he was in that. He did the Chris Jericho Price is Right segment. The greatest Raw segment of all time.
One of the rare good guest host moments.
And he returns against All Out 2007.
Yeah, they do another Basebrawl.
Listen, he seems like a swell fellow. And he works for Fox, so
That does bring us to the pay-per-view in which the 6-man tag, as we said, is Sabin, Sanjay, and Torborg as they defeat the Diamonds in the Rough in what I believe is the final, at least televised match. We might have it Indies, but even cage match doesn't have anything else listed. So I believe it is the final match Bobby Heenan called in his career.
Which is kind of like, what an interesting little twist there. TNA, huh? The place where weird things happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things about the TNA video library where like you'd be like Randy Savage's last match, Hogan's last match, Chyna's last match, stuff like that, and then you just like dig deeper and you're like, oh, it's the last call by Bobby Heenan, you know, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. And he gets to do it with Mike Tenay.
It is a lovely moment. Like Heenan gets a proper entrance. He's not just he comes out with the baseball guys on TV, but here he gets like his own introduction. The crowd go nuts for him. There's the lovely moment where he's introduced with Tenay, and then he starts putting the headset in, and he's like, $5. And Mike Tenay's like, fuck off.
He's still got like that charm about him.
Yeah, there's a moment where like Tenay is like, we'll smart and West up sooner or later, won't we? And Heenan just completely deadpans, no.
He's still got that charm that you won from Bobby Heenan.
He's still sharper than most human beings, and he is the sharpest man in the history of wrestling by far.
Well, so much that everyone else bites his shit and does it bad.
That's crazy to me that everyone thinks they can do Bobby Heenan, because he is like a generational performer, like the quickest wit in the history of this industry. And then you get like Corey Graves thinking he can do Bobby Heenan. Fuck off. Yeah. So Johnny Damon and Chris Widger are in the crowd. I think Johnny Damon is famous. famous. I think he's a baseball guy. He's a baseball guy, but I think he's a famous baseball guy.
All right, let me see what he's done.
Let me run through the match as you do it. Sabin and Dutt were wearing White Sox jerseys. Bobby puts over Mike Tenay and Don West as well as TNA. And like, in fairness to Bobby, like, he goes hard putting over TNA in this match as well. He's like, these are athletes unlike I've ever seen in 10 years in wrestling. It's some of the best wrestling I've seen on TV in years and years. And specifically, like, he's talking about these young guys can do things that other guys I've seen couldn't, and like putting over like Sanjay and Dale, or Sanjay and Dale Torm. Yeah, he putting over the team in he's putting Sanjay and Sabin over real hard. So like he does go that extra mile here to try and put over the actual young guys in the ring.
Okay, I got a lot on Johnny Damon.
What did Johnny Damon do?
Better player.
Okay.
He won 2 World Series and was a 2-time All-Star and the AL Stolen Base Leader in 2000.
Whoa.
He also appeared on Raw.
Boo.
In 2009. He hosted Raw. That's what that extra World Series win gets you. You don't get to appear, you get to host. He was a special guest at the Orange County Republican Party's Trump Defender Gala in 2019. And was arrested in Windermere, Florida for driving while intoxicated and resisting an officer without violence.
Fantastic.
And had a blood alcohol of 0.30.
Seems high.
And body cam footage released by the police department showed Damon claiming that his arrest was part of being targeted because of his support of Trump.
Oh, fuck off, you cunt.
Yeah, this guy sucks.
Get out of here, Johnny Damon.
What's Chris Widger? You a Trump guy? I'm sorry, but I hate to keep mentioning WSW, but QTV Girl is main eventing this show?
Naturally.
What?
She's Australian.
Yeah, a lot of people are Australian.
Who's she wrestling?
I'll let you know when they enter the ring.
It's probably Cassie, is it?
It seems to be for a vacant title. There's been a lot of AEW guys wrestling Impact guys on this show.
War.
Shout out to TJP, who just pinned Brian Cage in a 3-way with Mike Bailey. This guy doesn't seem like a dickhead, at least. She's wrestling an Australian wrestler named Aisha, who I think is pretty solid.
She was on the Impact shows, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's good. This is not the main event. Oh, there's a 3-way? Jessica Troy's in this? Jessica Troy's also good. Wait, is that Cassie? I can't tell if this is Cassie or not. It is. She got a rock in here. She's in V-Triggers and Fisherman's. God damn.
There's a moment in this match where Skipper tries to do the snapmare deal where you like lift yourself up in the air and come back down and pull them over into a snapmare, except when he's up in the air he falls on his head.
Okay, yeah.
And this is moments after Bobby is like, these are wrestlers unlike I've ever seen. Skipper just lands on his head.
Yeah.
But yeah, the finish is Heenan gets up from the desk and distracts the referee, allowing AJ Brzezinski to get the home plate from Johnny Damon,
who is the home plate lead stealer.
It all adds up. And he hits Simon Diamond with it. Cradle shock, Hindu press as Dutt and Sabin then pick up the win and present AJ and Dale Torborg with TNA Championship rings, which, as we revealed exclusively on the You've Got to Be Kidding Me Twitter account, AJ Brzezinski still has.
We can add news to our Patreon bio now.
Yeah, $5 tier for the breaking TNA news. But yeah.
Can we do that? Can we make that post?
AJ Brzezinski does in fact still have his TNA Championship ring. And as Bobby Heenan was presenting that to him, he started like biting on them to check the authenticity. Which is a good bit.
Because he was going to steal them.
Oh, he is a weasel.
I think Cassie won.
Fair play.
But then she got attacked by some lady.
Steph Delander.
No, she's broken her arm.
Oh.
She went through a table bad. Oh. It's some other lady that I've never seen in my life, but she laid out Cassie.
The big story regarding Turning Point was TNA getting its most mainstream publicity in its history with an angle put together by Mike Tenay that brought AJ Brzezinski of World
Johnny
Championship.
Fairplay muttered.
Honestly, like, listen, this is Dave talking about his buddy. Mike Tenay put together an angle and he puts over the angle for the amount of publicity. He goes, the Tennessee Titans one probably got more publicity. But
definitely. An old mate who like came in and beat up what's his face?
Brian Urlacher. Yeah. Did you mean Brian Urlacher?
Yeah.
Chris Rock?
That one didn't do it. Let's not pretend.
This got TNA covered ahead of time in CNN, ESPN's Cold Pizza, on 2 ESPN talk shows and throughout Chicago media, as well as covered in USA Today. And then they eventually got an article in Sports Illustrated, which included some quotes, a reference to AJ Styles, so everything going pretty well. Simon Diamond apparently talked about how one of the best moments of his career was just reading his name written in Sports Illustrated, which is nice.
I hope he has that magazine.
TNA came up with the idea of having him to appear at the show simply to meet AJ Styles and exchange gifts. So it's like AJ meeting AJ because they started calling him the phenomenal AJ Brzezinski in the run-up to winning the World Series.
That's really funny.
So TNA, who's a big baseball fan and knows both White Sox owner Eddie Einhorn, who is a former wrestling promoter who has been an observer reader for more than 2 decades, as Dave pats himself on the back.
That's awesome, actually, though. There's a lot of wrestling connections in the White Sox.
Yeah, minor league strength coach Dale Torborg, who of course was the Kiss
when
demon.
they won. Makes you think.
Yeah, you got wrestlers in your baseball team and suddenly you win. So I was able to put together the first of a series of cross-promotional ideas between TNA and the White Sox, with more ideas floated next season. It ended up being very controversial internally, with the belief that it was going to be a flop, an embarrassing flop by many, including those in creative.
Jeff Jarrett.
TNA, which I think was like the real smart move, as I said, used his long-time friendship with Bobby Heenan as a safety valve, knowing the live crowd in Orlando might crap on the baseball, but they'd love Heenan. So they'd put Heenan would guarantee that the angles would go smoothly and get a good reaction, which is really, really smart. And like Heenan, obviously a Chicago guy, so it like ties together.
There's a lot about this. This is an intricate thing that Mike Tenay pulled off.
Nobody expected the angle to help ratings or add buys, but simply garner publicity, and it did just that, and created some media context and put TNA in front of people that it otherwise wouldn't have, and gave a story to a usually throwaway Diamonds in the Rough pay-per-view match. So everyone was like, good job. And part of the success people attribute to the hiring of Ross Foreman as head of publicity, who is still doing that job to this day in 2023. The finish was then played on SportsCenter the next day as one of the plays of the day and mentioned throughout Chicago media, as well as requested by CNN, CBS, and ABC. So it's one of the better publicity stunts, getting more publicity than Urlacher and Johnny Fairplay, though I would say the Tennessee Titans stuff probably blew up a little more because it felt more, I think the Titans stuff felt more spontaneous, I guess, which is the reason that kind of blew up. It was apparently originally written for D'Amore and Team Canada, but they had no interest in doing it, so it went to the Diamonds in the Rough instead. And apparently Simon Diamond's a big baseball fan, so I think that worked.
Team Canada, yeah, sorry, we gotta put over 4LK.
We've got something much more important going on.
Hey, maybe that means that D'Amore was the one shitting on the idea.
He hates baseball.
He's like, if it was a hockey team.
Yeah. If it was a Canadian sport, we'd do it. Alright, we gotta do Jarrett Rhino.
Yeah, because 4LK gets the fuck shitter. I mean, not much happened. It's more interesting because, the behind-the-scenes things with the Rhino. We're TMZ now.
So, November 19th, Rhino beat Abyss. We've already talked about that match. And then Larry booked the Rhino and Jarrett match for Turning Point. We then had, a series of Rhino vignettes through the week that we'll talk about all at once. They were set to a song called Caught in a Moment by a band called Broken Yoke. Again, me searching Spotify for these song titles in the show notes. The most important thing I'm doing in the show notes, $1 tier, Patreon, tnachat.com.
If you need them.
So they go through the narrative of Rhino's last few months of his career, where he was fired by the WWE for an incident in WrestleMania weekend where he got into an argument with his wife in a hotel room in the hotel lobby on I think the night of WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania weekend. I think it was the WrestleMania after party, in fact.
Didn't he beat the shit out of a plant?
Yeah, he smashed a plant pot. It was a scene. And for all the things that people got fired for in wrestling, I guess it's WrestleMania weekend where there's a bigger magnifying glass on everything, but that seems relatively tame for being fired.
Yeah, you can fuck up a private jet, but God forbid the after party.
Yeah, Rhino still worked one night stand after that, but obviously he was fired, he jumped to TNA. So they go through that where the whole thing is Rhino taking accountability for that. It's I made mistakes, I understand I made mistakes, and that was all my bad. I'm improving, I'm getting better, I'm growing, and I've worked my way back, I've rebuilt my career here in TNA, and I won the NWA title, but then Jeff Jarrett took that from me, and I'm going to take it back at Turning Point. That's the crux of the features. And they're they're nice little features for what they are, but they're not really a main event world title program push, are they?
I think it would have been better to have him on the show, personally.
They're the thing you do the month before you go into the main event world title program.
When you re-establish the character, then he starts picking up wins and momentum.
Yeah, this is the beginning of that, as opposed to they're doing this after he has already lost the belt in the build-up to the rematch. So that's most of what Rhino's doing. Other than the Abyss match, he's then not really on TV, other than those quick 1-minute features every week. So Jarrett starts pivoting off into Christian, basically.
It's so weird.
Jarrett main events the November 26th episode against Kip James. Yeah, the big thing there is the debut of Jackie Gaeta.
The big thing, alright.
So Jackie Gaeta comes out and Jarrett's what the hell's going on here? What are you doing here? She goes straight for Gail, so there's something between Jackie and Gail.
Everyone wants to fuck Jeff Jarrett because he's the hottest, sexiest, most charismatic man of all time.
Listen, if he had Jeff's charisma, that might be true, Hardy.
And also his looks.
If he was Jeff Hardy, that might be true. So Jarrett repeatedly shouts, "That's not what you think," shouts at her to leave and pushes her. Then she slaps him and brawls with Gale as security separates them. Jarrett still wins the match, even with all that distraction.
Yeah.
That's more Trill K family drama side of it, though. Jarrett comes out the next show, December 3rd, in which he's doing his big promo. It's like, everything was his fault. He sucks. Why are we doing videos on him? He sucks. This is the latest part of the conspiracy to take the belt off me. Look at all the company is putting behind Rhino. They're trying to build his image so he can take the belt from all that kind of stuff.
I like the idea that vignettes are going to help someone win a match.
They're establishing the narrative, you see.
Because wrestling's fake.
He talks about how Gale won't return his calls because Jackie Gaeta showed up as the crowd chants boring.
Yeah, the crowd does not give a shit. And why would they? It's Jackie Gaeta.
Hey, we did a career retrospective. It was riveting.
Excuse me, I did a career retrospective.
TNA inquires about what was behind the slap, and Jarrett gets like deathly serious, and he's like, never ever go there again.
And TNA's kind of like, what?
Yeah, he's like, well, all right, okay. I've done worse to you. Why are you really mad here?
He's like, I don't really care that much, to be honest.
Christian comes out. Christian's like, I'm not the flavor of the month. I'm Captain Charisma, you silly bastard.
Great bit.
Yeah, he's bored of Jarrett. Says all he's contributed to TNA's success is a couple of broken guitars and a bunch of bad haircuts.
Not wrong.
He's coming for the winner of Jarrett and Rhino after he's done with Monty. Jarrett invites Christian down to the ring. Christian teases leaving, turns around, brawls. Christian goes for the unprettier, but Jarrett bails. Rude hits the Northern Lariat on Christian to set up their TV match next week. Jackie Gaeta comes back out, shouts at Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett pushes her, so she slaps him again. Same thing as last week. Security separates everybody as AMW wants answers from Jarrett about Jackie, Christian, and Rude brawl.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, riveting stuff with Jackie Gaeta, who gets more TV time this month than Rhino.
Something. Maybe Jackie Gaeta is Raven's new girlfriend.
That would add up. Opener of the primetime special is AMW and Jarrett against the Naturals and Hardy. We already talked about that match in which they put Andy Douglas through a table. Some brawling. There is a moment in that match where they tease for ages. Like Douglas and Harris are on the top of the ramp teasing doing cool moves off of the ramp. So they're like, well, I'm going to catatonic him off the stage and we're going to do all this stuff. And then he just kind of boots him off and he falls.
Uh-huh.
By the way, this is Chase's first match back after breaking his neck.
I would have just retired.
He was only out for like 3 weeks.
Should have just 3 weeks is not enough time to recover from neck breaking.
You should really be out for longer. Turning point. There is a show running story, of course, where like the mention that the face of TNA will change forever in 2006. So we have the same thing we always do with Jarrett going to like 15 different people backstage, being like, "You hear about what they said? What do they say? What's that about?"
Best thing is James Storm littering.
He just throws that bottle as they arrive.
Yeah.
Just drops it in a flower blade.
It's great.
They do want to do the point of contrast, and that Jarrett arrives in a limo, with Rhino arrives in a pickup truck.
That's very expensive pickup truck. Let's not pretend.
Yeah, that's not a cheap vehicle.
No, that is a gigantic, big waste of money.
In fact, largely more expensive than what I assume is a rented limo.
Maybe Jarrett owns the limo.
With the amount TNA use it, they're bloody better. Jarrett does the same thing with Monty later in the show. He does the same thing with Team Canada later in the show. Same conspiratorial stuff, which does lead us to the main event, in which Jarrett defeats Rhino to retain the NWA World Title.
And, it's fine.
Again, as Jarrett crowd brawling matches go, it was one of the more okay ones. I think it went 3 1/4.
It's alright.
Jarrett bleeds.
But, it also followed, the best match in company history. This best singles match in company history, so that sucks for them.
Yeah, they're going out there right after Styles and Joe. And, as you said, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for what it is. There's some cool spots.
It's not the worst Jeff Jarrett pay-per-view title match.
No, easily not. We still like that
exactly.
Hardy one. Maybe the DDP one.
Oh, there's been a lot of bad Jeff Jarrett now. Shocking development.
It is better than the last Jarrett Rhino pay-per-view match. They roll up to the camera stand on some scaffolding as Jarrett knocks Rhino off through a table. They set up, in the cool spot in the match, they teased this last month and didn't do it, but they set up a table covering the front of the entrance tunnel, and then Rhino gores Jarrett through the table down the tunnel, and the table doesn't even break. The table slides down the tunnel with them. It's a cool looking spot.
It is fun.
And that also sets up a spot after that where Jarrett gets back to the ring because Team Canada come out and help him back to the ring, and they do this big dramatic 10 count. It's if Rhino can't get back to the ring, he loses. Jarrett retains by count out, and they get to 9, and Rhino just charges into the ring straight into his big comeback, and it's a cool moment.
There's bits in this.
Yeah, but it's a Jarrett match, so we get nonsense. So Team Canada are all over the place. Rudy's bumped. Rhino gores A1, but gets caught with the Northern Lariat, but Rhino kicks out. Jarrett hits him with a guitar, but Rhino kicks out. Jackie Gator shows up, slaps Jarrett. Jarrett turns right into a gore, but Jarrett kicks out. Like, Don is counting along, and he's like, yes! And then when Jarrett kicks out, he's like, oh, come on!
Don is all of us.
When he realized Jarrett didn't lose. Jarrett hits a middle rope stroke onto 2 chairs to retain after DeBoer hit Rhino in the back with a hockey stick.
He's loving the middle rope stroke lately.
He beat Chris Sabin with it last month.
He's loving it.
The lights go out. It is not Sabu.
Oh God. It's
Sabu? It's Sabu!
That'd be sick.
It's Sting. They're a series of scorpions.
It's Sting.
It's Sting. The Todd Grisham delivery. It's Sting.
It's the stuff associated with Sting.
Yeah, so there's a spotlight in the middle of the ring on a chair upon which...
They take so long to see.
Yeah, it's aged. So yeah, you see the jacket, the boots, and the bat in the middle of the ring. And Jarrett and DeBoer are still like looking around, being like, what could it be? What could it be?
What could these scorpions mean?
Before they finally turn and see Sting's gear in the ring and Jarrett is shook.
His core.
As Jarrett is still your NWA World Champion. And we end the show, I guess not as we always end the show, because it's not 3LK family drama, Liam.
No.
It's 4LK family drama.
Oh my God, beware.
So, November 19th Impact, we start with a feature on 3LK, they run through the history of the family drama, which has been running since February.
Don't we know it?
The franchise then has 3LK backstage. BG has been granted time to address 3 Live Crew's future next week.
Thank God. I was wondering.
You really want to know what's happening in the 3 Live Crew land. Truth is mad because, like, why did franchise know about this, but I didn't?
Which is a little bit that is not acknowledged.
And then Conan is even madder because he's like, he says the line, have you been painting in an unventilated room? Maybe you need to go back to rehab. Which is...
amazing.
Cuts a little deep. And then he's like, why next week? What's with the cliffhanger? Just tell us right now.
That, in that thing, Drew's like, come on.
Oh yeah, Truth is like, yeah, dude.
What the fuck?
That's unnecessary.
It's like, I'm sorry.
On the November 26th Impact, 3LK and Kip James come to the ring. BG loves everybody, and the crowd's like, aww.
Aww.
Conan accuses Kip of always attaching himself to a hot act. That might be an acclaimed suggestion there by Conan. BG is wearing a Kip shirt, I think, which may send the wrong message to his other 2 buddies. I wouldn't have worn a Kip James shirt to this particular meeting.
Whatever.
So BG basically issues an ultimatum. He wants an up and down vote from the other 2 members of 3LK about whether or not Kip can join their family. Truth says he never doubted BG and votes yes. He's like, I just wanted to be straight with you and you're now straight with me, so thumbs up, he's in. Conan is Conan, so he's just like, what the fuck? No. BG kind of cuts him off. Is like, have I ever given you a reason not to trust me? And it's like, well, he has, but...
Yeah, when he hit you with that chair twice.
He just wants one more. He wants a yay from Conan. He wants him to trust him one more time. The crowd actually chant nay. They don't want Conan to do this.
Of course, why would they? This sucks.
Conan does, though, vote yay. He welcomes Kip James.
Shock of all shocks.
And we now officially have the 4 Live
Can't
Crew.
wait for the remix theme song. Oh, this run's going to be iconic.
Yeah, they're going to go hard on this one because they know this is going to be the longest lasting stable in TNA history.
Get the t-shirts ready.
The main event of that show is Jarrett and Kip. Team Canada interfere to allow Jarrett to win. 4LK make the save. It's basically the crux of it
Just
there.
4LK guys.
So next week's Impact, we go backstage. But Bullet Bob Armstrong is here.
It's the 5LK.
So he's backstage and he's like, I am so happy that all of you are together. Like, united you stand, divided you fall, but you're together. And I love you, Conan. I love you, Kip. I love you, Truth. And I guess I love you, son. You'll face Team Canada at Turning Point in an 8-man tag team match. He is very proud of his boys. They have come together. They have overcome adversity. Helvis and Sin face the 4 Live Crew of Conan and Kip James on the Go Home Impact, the primetime special. It's basically a squash match to show they're on the same page. My favorite part of it is after they win, they cut to Bob Armstrong at the top of the ramp, who just like gives them a hearty thumbs up. He's happy to see his boys together.
Again, it should be the 5L crew.
When they're hitting the catchphrases at the start, BG hits the not 1,
oh my
not
God.
2, not 3. And you would think he would go but 4, but he adds another line after that to throw the crowd completely off. It's like,
the crowd hates it.
You are not a professional here, sir.
It's really bad.
But yeah, the squash, Rolling Thunder, one and only Tequila Sunrise for the win, which does bring us to the pay-per-view, in which
great
We have a backstage segment with 4LK. BG's like, 2006 will be the year of Familia. And Conan says something in Spanish for his Latin people. And I forgot, I was going to try and ask Twitter to like translate it, because I presume it's probably like some foreshadowing bit that he dropped.
He's like, I'm going to kill them.
Yeah, he said something probably to the extent of, yeah, I am going to smash this man in the head with a chair. But I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know.
You should learn.
Which does bring us to the 8-man tag. It is the 3 Live Crew versus Team Canada. Give me all your takes.
It's fine.
That's one take. What's your next take?
BG does the 4 Live Crew intro, but introduces another line before the 4 Live Crew part and throws everyone off. Kip hits Bobby with a famous Ewo brings chair, but Conan intercepts. Conan then brains Kip with the chair, allowing Rude to pin him. BG shouts at Conan as Truth tries to calm everybody. Conan then hits BG with the chair. Truth looks shocked. Truth is like, "You're gonna hit me next," but Conan's like, "Nah, bro, you're cool." Hugs and invites Truth to leave with him. Truth declines.
Which is after months and months and months, some might say.
And years, decades.
To throw shade at Dave Meltzer again. A note in The Observer, if you've been watching consistently, this angle took too long. But for 75% of the audience that is really new, they were 2 months minimum too fast in doing this turn.
I get your point, but no, they weren't, because this sucks. Shut up.
I thought the turn was good, because Conan hit a dude in the head with a chair.
Yeah.
And I appreciate how, like, BG tried to talk him down, and he also just killed BG with the chair. He's like, screw both you guys.
It's 1 a.m. I'm not talking about this.
No, talk more. How do you feel about Truth? Which side should Truth go with? If you would, no, more importantly, if you were on the Truth killing, who would you go with?
Truth.
Oh, the Truth is for Truth. He's like standalone. He's moving on, doing his own thing.
He's going to launch the Truth Commission.
We would be 1 a.m. if you didn't play like half an hour of Pokemon before we started.
How about you shut up?
Never. I'm a white man with a podcast. I'm incapable of shutting up.
Oh God, this is the most powerful combination known to mankind.
It is nice though to like finally get some fucking development in this goddamn shitty 3 Live Crew angle. So the downside is I don't want to see any of the matches coming out of this shitty 3 Live Crew angle.
I mean, maybe like Ron and Conan.
As a team or against each other?
Yes.
Because apparently the plan was still to do Ron and Hardy as a team, but obviously Hardy is gone.
Sure.
So that is December 2005. We have covered it extensively. How do you feel? Good pay-per-view month, decent TV month, but not special, but a good pay-per-view month.
It was alright.
What are you eating?
Nothing, bro.
We will be back with our final resolution episode in a while, whenever we're back with it.
No,
we'll
say actual things.
We'll be back next.
No, it was a fine month.
No, you're done. No, you're done. You decided to scoff a cookie in your mouth. You get no more thoughts.
It's so dry.
You will spend 15 minutes trying to clear that out of your mouth.
I don't have any more liquid either.
Bold.
It is a bit. You can't be mad if it's a bit.
We will be back with the Final Resolution 2006 episode with the arrival of Sting. So that'll be our next episode. We'll be back next week on Patreon with a brand new episode of Tuesday War Games covering AEW and NXT going head to head next week. We'll also be coming up with another episode of Rain Takers and another episode of the Lucha Underground show. Gift of the Pods coming your way to patreon.com.
So you're going to just like ignore the name again.
Or TNAchat.com in the next while. All that coming your way. I would never ignore the names of our shows, Liam. It's not that I can't remember them. You can follow us on Twitter at TNA History Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Kidney. You can follow Liam on Twitter at The Gleet Muda. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at You've Got to Be Kidding Me and on TikTok at TNA History. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
Whoop whoop.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if 2 people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
Hi, my name is Tyler Fornes, and I am the co-host of The Good, the Bad, and the Hunky here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Every week, my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling and everything going on in the universe of Tony Khan. We talk about Dynamite, we talk about Rampage, and we will talk about Collision when the time comes as well, along with all the appearances outside of AEW from all the best talents in All Elite Wrestling. This is one of the more cohesive wrestling companies in the entire world, and we discuss every intricacy about it, including the unique booking of Tony Khan that is both a huge positive and a major detriment. check us out every single Thursday here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.